And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Good evening, and thank you for remotely attending tonight's City Council meeting. The camera in the council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button and be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
They're saying they can't see council.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think she has to shut her camera.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Here.
Councilor Dillabaugh,
Here.
Councilor Fisher,
Here.
Councilor Kennedy, here, Councilor Powers, Councilor Reish,
Here.
Councilor Scamperly,
Here.
quorum present.
We have one presentation tonight regarding the DRI application.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So this evening, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to present in advance of a resolution of support, some highlights from the proposed 2021 Round 5 DRI application. These applications, as you are aware, are due on Wednesday to the state, to the region specifically. For those that are attending remotely, in the handout section of your webinar, you'll see that there are two attachments. One of them is a map of the proposed downtown boundary, and you can open that up so that you can see it, because I'm guessing you won't be able to see anything here that's on the screen in good quality. And I've provided council with hard copies of the proposed boundary for your reference. The application includes, it highlights, 10 projects, 3 projects from the private sector, 2 projects from the not-for-profit, and the remaining are public-private or public projects. In total, the budget is just under $42 million in projects, with a request of $5.6 million to support private projects, $1.6 million to support not-for-profit projects, and $8.7 million in public-private partnership projects. The centerpiece of the proposed downtown boundary is a proposed regional recreational hub, which would be at 30 Main Street, which is presently or formerly the cheese manufacturing plant. The city owns that entire block, which is just over 3 acres in size. We've done some initial environmental investigation, and we know that several of the buildings require demolition. So we feel that this is a good proposed reuse for the property, and several successful DRIs in the past have focused around recreational uses as sort of the central municipal project. So this is very much in keeping with previous successful applications and building off of the city's greatest assets, which are our waterfronts. This also includes a placeholder to support the private development of the Diamond site. We have an RFP that's out right now with responses that are due back on September 20th. We've had a lot of positive feedback, and we anticipate getting proposals from developers for that site. And so we have carried a placeholder with a request for $3.5 million of public funding to support private investment at the Diamond site. We also, as I stated earlier, have included 3 private sector projects scattered throughout the 230-acre boundary. One of those is for the property on Covington Street. There's a private investment on River Street, as well as a private investment on Franklin Street. Each of those have project summaries that were provided by the property owners that we're requesting public support for. Again, sort of the connecting theme here is about connecting the historic downtown core with the city's waterfront with a focus on recreation. So I'm excited to present the application in a very high level and get that submitted on behalf of the city on Wednesday. Each project that is in the application has a project profile. So we have 10 of these. I didn't make one for everybody. So you can see those are all in draft, and we're kind of working on wrapping up the details for each of those projects right now.
This is an exciting time. I think we have a very good shot at this. I appreciate this effort, and also it's very exciting the local developers that are involved in this, and which makes a big difference. This could be a turning point for Ogdensburg.
Absolutely. I do just want to point out a little bit about the process. So applications are due on Wednesday. I sort of feel like a resounding gong because I know I've said this several times. This is the very first step in what could be, and I hope will be, a long process. Applications we're hopeful for awards to be made in mid to late October. So we're looking at awards this fall. The successful communities will then commence a 6 to 7 month strategic investment planning process with the state. And so if you are a property owner within the downtown area and you weren't quite far enough along to submit a property profile at this point in the game, it's still not too late. If we're successful and we are awarded, projects can still be submitted and considered throughout the planning process. So while we are highlighting 10 projects in our application now, this is not the comprehensive end-all list of projects. It could change, it likely will change, and not all of the projects will receive funding, but we're hopeful that we're putting together a very good and comprehensive list and that the projects will be well conceived of and will receive awards.
I'm hopeful that we'll get some submissions from the request for proposal initiative for the Diamond National project, and that property, that will greatly enhance this application, and that it can be amended to include that. Or I was talking to Andrea, there's an opportunity to present it before the regional council, and by then we should know what the result of that effort is as well. So thanks for your work on this. It's a nice project, a nice grant application, and very critical to Ogdensburg.
With the private equity that's going into the city and the READY project, if we're successful in this, Ogdensburg will be a different city when it's done. Amazing.
Yeah. You know what? We came very close last couple times to getting the DRI, especially the last time. And this is spectacular that we have some good private investment like this that wants to invest in this city. And you know what? My hat's off to Andrea and Mackenzie. It's my understanding you guys have worked diligently on this, and thank you very much. So you have my full support, and keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully this is the tipper that'll get us the money finally. We've come so close before, and I hope it works this time. So it's just a little bit more than we've ever had before, I think, on these projects. So yeah, excellent. Thank you, ladies.
Grant application acknowledges the waterfront improvements that we're doing as well, and dollar value of those,
Yes, I think I know. I think if I'm interpreting your question correctly. So I've calculated that the investments over the past 10 years within this area are about $82 million. So this obviously would advance that investment. That includes the $43 million wastewater treatment plant project, as well as other projects that we've done within our park system, our infrastructure, other private projects, including the North Country Healthcare System in the downtown mall,
That's ready project as well.
the Ready Project, yep.
Anyone else? Anything?
Mayor, if I could comment when all the counselors are done.
Yes, yes, please.
So I just also want to thank Andrea for taking the lead on this, and all of her staff, and really all the city staff that are in this. I also want to say to council, this is a process, I think as most of you are aware, it's just very, very competitive. And we're stacking ourselves up against a lot of towns and villages, communities that have worked a long time at these. And I think one of the selling points for Ogdensburg on this will be that we are doing a lot, all we can. We're making sacrifices that have been difficult on our community, and making budget reductions so that we can make ultimately property tax reductions. The things that we can do, we're doing everything we can do in the city. We're not just looking for the state to give us another grant to bail us out. We truly have a plan to augment our plan, the plan that I believe the city council will see through whether we get grant money or not. So I think that'll be also a high selling point for us. And should we not be successful in the immediate round here, I believe Andrea has started a process that will just carry forth, that we'll continue building on. We won't throw this one in the garbage can and start over again. This will be a process we'll continue building on, because we really are executing along the lines of what is our strategic vision for the city. So again, thanks to Andrea. Certainly appreciate if all the councilors are behind this tonight. I think it goes a long way by demonstrating unity at the local level when our state officials are looking at these projects. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So moving on.
Go ahead. I think it's important that we have 7 counselors vote on this. And so before we vote, should we rearrange the agenda so that Mike can?
Counselor Scamperly, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Counselor Powers has joined us.
Oh, he has?
He is
Excellent.
here. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's not till later in the agenda anyway.
Okay. We have one proclamation this evening, and we will begin with a statement to be read by our city clerk, Kathy Don.
Please celebrate the foundation of America. Scottsy Chapter National Society Daughters of the American Revolution promotes Constitution Week in the city of Ogdensburg. There are 2 documents of paramount importance to American history: the Declaration of Independence, which forged our national identity, and the United States Constitution, which set forth the framework for the federal government that is still in use today. While Independence Day is a beloved national holiday, fewer people know about Constitution Week, an annual commemoration of the living document that upholds and protects the freedoms central to our American way of life. This year, the annual week-long celebration begins September 17th through September 23rd, 2021. On behalf of our Regent, Marlene Watson Graves, we ask your Mayor Skelly to sign this proclamation marking September 17th through the 23rd, Constitution Week in the city of Ogdensburg, New York. Sincerely, Sally W. Hartman.
Nice, very nice. Thank you. Whereas, I'll read the proclamation and here's how it goes. Whereas September 13th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey M. Skelly, Mayor of the City of Ogdensburg, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd 2021 to be Constitution Week. Constitution Week in the city of Ogdensburg, and I ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideas of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787. I will now sign this. My favorite things every year, signing that. We do not have any public hearings tonight, so this brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you'll have 5 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Tooley. I live at 214 Hamilton Street in Ogdensburg. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. First, I support the decision by Mayor Skelly to move to remote-only meetings of City Council as authorized by recent New York State legislation. While not ideal, I agree a conservative approach is appropriate due to recent pronouncements by the New York State Department of Health about COVID-19. Next, in August, Mayor Skelly issued a Facebook post in which he listed certain financial achievements for the city of Ogdensburg and implied these were achieved by the efforts of the, quote, new city council and city manager, close quote. In my comments tonight, I clarify what I believe is the appropriate credit for the achievements noted in this Facebook post. First, the surplus of $1.4 million in 2020, and second, $4 million in fund balance. The increase in general fund balance from $620,000 at the end of 2016 to $2.6 million as of December 31st, 2019 was not achieved by any action of the current city council or the current city manager. Some credit for the surpluses generated in 2017, 2018, and 2019 can be attributed to financial decisions made in these years by city council and administration in developing the annual budget. But I think a significant contributor to the increase in surplus in each of these years was the increase in New York State sales tax revenue in St. Lawrence County. This contributed to the increase in sales tax revenue received by the city during these years. And I do not think any municipal governing board can take credit for this. Similarly, in 2020, the budget developed by the prior city manager and approved by the prior city council is in part responsible for the $1.4 million surplus in 2020, which gets the fund balance to $4 million. Current city council can take credit for reducing labor costs by the direct or indirect elimination of positions in the city's labor force. But as in prior years, the main contributing factor in the 2020 surplus was the increase in New York State sales tax revenue generated in St. Lawrence County. Again, I believe no municipal governing board in St. Lawrence County can take responsibility or credit for this. Point 3. Ogdensburg will not be facing bankruptcy in 2023. I believe my previous comments pertaining to New York State sales tax revenue received by the city in the past 4 years, with another significant increase forecast in 2021, demonstrate the city was never heading to bankruptcy in 2023. Point 4, $1.2 million of debt is paid off. While credit to current city council administration in making use of the increase in cash flow due to the increase in sales tax revenue over the past 4 years to pay this debt is fair, still it is the increase in revenue that made this action possible. Point 5, property tax rate lowered 10% in 2021. Current city council can take credit for this if it chooses, but in my opinion, this reduction was achieved in part by the reduction in the city's labor force, some of which was achieved in violation of certain labor contracts with the city employees, and through action by city council that an independent arbitrator determined was in violation of the city charter. Moving on to another matter. Where is the 2020 audited financial statements for the city of Ogdensburg? According to minutes of the June 28 city council meeting, the city controller stated the audit report should be available for the audit committee in a week or two. The July 12th meeting minutes, State Councilor Powers asked when the audit presentation will be done. The city manager replied he planned to reach out to the audit committee next week. That would be the week of July 19th. Here we are nearly 2 months later. The 2020 audit is yet to be presented to city council. Has it been presented to the audit committee? Since the December 31, 2020 numbers in the city's balance sheet are the best in some time, I would think the city would want this audit available for inclusion in grant applications when requested. I'm also curious to see if the auditor's management letter finds the city controller's office sustained weaknesses in internal control and fiscal operations due to the reduction of its staff in 2020. It's harder to segregate duties within the office with fewer people. Is this a reason the city is advertising for an accounting supervisor? I see qualifications listed in the advertisement for this position, but I do not see any job responsibilities listed. If we need an accounting supervisor, perhaps instead we bring back a full-time city controller to City Hall. I hope you will consider this. Thank you.
Kathy, before you go on, I'd like to give a counter to McTooley's statements. In 2017, the previous city council raised taxes $1 million. But in doing that, they also maxed out the credit card in a sense because we reached our constitutional limit and couldn't go any higher. Now, you can argue whether it was right or wrong, but revenue was needed for the city because it's become very difficult to pay the bills. But in 2018, they increased expenditures $1 million, eating up the $1 million in higher taxes and revenue from 2017. An example to counter Mike Tooley's statement is that in 2017, 2018, and 2019, the county was unpaid fully for uncollected property taxes in an amount of approximately $197,000, raising the amount of unpaid money to the county to approximately $825,000. And as far as breaking union contracts unlawfully, I think Judge Farley has ruled on that and in the city's favor, and it was not unlawful. Those are just my points, and anyone else wish to speak, go ahead. And the sales tax, oh, one other thing, the sales tax has increased and has benefited, but every year that was consumed by the additional expenditures. And even with the raised sales tax and the $1 million increased property taxes, there was still not sufficient money to pay the county. If anyone else would like to speak before we go on to the next one, please go ahead.
I just have one thing. Can we just try to let personal appearances go through and then maybe address individuals and like item for discussion or something? Otherwise, I think we're going to be here all night.
Well, I thought this was a good one to count, but I have no problem. I will try.
Just because I think if we go back and forth, we'll be here all night tonight.
I will try to do that.
Thank you.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
The next individual is registered as Jim Bell, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Good evening. Let me start out by wishing Kathy Jock a happy birthday.
Thank
You
you.
deserve all the best. Okay, what I have to say may offend some of you, and honestly, I don't care. I'm protected by the Constitution to express my views, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Jim, if it's personal, you will be shut off. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see what you deem as personal.
Do not mention any city staff or person on council.
Well, how would you possibly know what I'm going to mention, Mayor? Why don't you let me, sir?
I'm trying to help you, Jim.
This
Don't
is
get caught up.
my 5 minutes, sir. Again, I am protected by the First Amendment. Thank you. So far, I've been called a disruptor. I've been part of I'm part of a pack of wild dogs. I've been told to get off the couch and get involved. And most recently, I've been called a moron by our city manager, all of which I find offensive. The professionalism of the mayor and city manager is laughable. City manager.
Again, Jim, you're mentioning people specifically, and I'll have to cut you off. Or just
Okay, I can't address city manager or mayor.
not personally, not like
Okay,
that. No.
Your name. Is that acceptable?
We're here to talk city business, Jim. Can you please do
Oh,
that?
So I have a question. Excuse me, Jim. So we have a letter here that's filed a complaint against one of our city staff. Are you going to let that letter be read since it mentions that person's name?
I suggested we
no.
just said
Okay,
no.
good.
We said that earlier.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Before you came, yeah.
Okay, I was contacted via my personal Facebook Messenger by the city manager to go over a positively slanted news article backing his plan to condemn landlords' property in the event of drug busts. I had opposed punishing the landlords, as most have to honor the rights of the tenants, and many have suffered during the pandemic. On Saturday night, I was notified that my house and others of a fire on my boat while I was on my boat with my family. Because of the immediate response of the Ogdensburg Fire Department, Fulton Fire Department, and Lisbon, none of the families involved, myself included, were forced to vacate our premises, even though we suffered an incredible amount of damage. The sacrifice and dedication these fire departments showed was amazing. It's gotten crazy how your staffing cuts have put these people in danger. Understandably, I was upset that the self-appointed city fire chief was not present. As Jelly had contacted me personally on my Facebook, I felt that I could also show my displeasure at his absence. His response was to call me a moron and tell me his child was just born. As I understand his absence as a father, I am offended to be spoken to by a city employee in such a way. I have opposed most of your decisions, and I won't deny that. But I refuse to accept that as a taxpayer in the city for over 20 years, and an active participant of youth programs, and a father to 3 children in this city, that I should be spoken to in that way. I feel the city manager should be officially disciplined for unprofessional conduct. I refuse to fall into his pattern of trying to agitate and to intimidate citizens, and then have the police department act as his personal Gestapo.
Jim, I'm
For
going
the
to
most
stop
part, I kept quiet for a year. And that
you
also
put a letter in. Jim, I'm going to stop you there. I saw your email was threatening the city manager. I'm going to cut you off on this.
Gloves are off, Skelly. I'm coming for all of you, and I'm going to help you move out.
Yeah. There was a threatening email sent in the early morning hours to the city manager, and I'm not going to deal with this. Next one, please.
The next individual is registered as Justin Polniak, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Good evening, council. My name is Justin Polniak. I'm the president of the Ogdensburg Patrolmen's Benevolent Association. And on behalf of the Ogdensburg Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, I'd like to say a few words regarding the current staffing and working conditions at the Ogdensburg Police Department. We would first like to commend the hard work being done by all of you that are involved during this difficult budget time. We understand this process is not easy and the decisions are often difficult to make. Specifically, we would like to publicly thank those of you who have told members of our department recently that we have your word that you will not cut staffing from our police department in the upcoming budget. Although these are just words, we trust them and they offer some hope in these times of uncertainty. Those of you who have given this message to department members include Councilor Kennedy, Councilor Powers, Councilor Scamperly, Councilor Reish, and Councilor Dillabaugh. We thank you for your support. While the verbal support to our members while we are face-to-face has been positive, the uncertainty continues because of mixed messages in the media coming from City Hall. No less than once a week, our members are forced to read a potential drastic cuts to our police department by our mayor and reinforced recently in an article by our city manager. We are being told this is posturing in the continued battle with the county. The anxiety and stress caused by this continued posturing, where we are used as pawns, is unfair. We have enough things to worry about in our daily work. Please stop adding this to it. This posturing directly caused a 12-year patrolman, who was our department's school resource officer, to transfer to another local department, bringing his experience, training, and wealth of knowledge with him. This disparity leads us to wonder if we have the support of the majority of the council, like they're verbally telling us, and they will not cut our department, then why does it seem as though this plan is not being executed? This council passed a budget for 2021 to fund 23 police officers. We currently have 19, one of which has been injured and will be medically retiring any day now, and one of which was injured and is on modified duty. This leaves 17 working bodies. Due to these openings and given the current budget that was passed last year, Chief Westcott, prior to retiring, started a preliminary canvass to begin background checks and get ready to hire officers for the upcoming academy. This process was halted by the city manager, and a new directive was given that the chief of police is no longer allowed to request a canvass from civil service, and only the city manager can authorize from now on. The lack of execution of the supported 23 positions from last year's budget causes our trust to waver. Is it that the council passed the budget to save face and act as though they were supporting 23 positions, then directed the city manager privately not to fill them? Or does the council truly believe that it is funding the 23 positions, but the city manager is not fulfilling council's wishes and instead leaving them vacant because those are his wishes? We need to know where the control lies with our positions and budget. It does no good to pass a budget of 23 officers if we are not allowed to fill the vacant positions when they're open. That is for you 7 to figure out with your city manager. It does no good to discuss a future budget when the trust in executing a past budget doesn't exist. Instead, please finish staffing the budget you passed last year. And quite honestly, 23 is not enough officers for our city. We have been cut from 29 officers to 23 officers in the budget in the last 3 years. However, we chose not to argue or dive into that point tonight because we understand there is a process, and 23 is the number that this council chose for our city to fund at the end of that process. We are merely asking for the result of the process that you all voted for to be executed and to get our current vacant positions filled. I would also like to mention that even if we were immediately allowed to hire officers currently budgeted, it is a lengthy hiring process and there's a good chance that most of them would be required to go through the academy. So we'll still be looking at the understaffed crew that we're currently working with for the next almost 12 months. Please at least give us some hope that reinforcements are on the way. I think we've proven that we are dedicated to tirelessly protecting this community, but we need this council's support to accomplish this goal together. Please provide the support we need so that we can continue to support and protect the Ogdensburg community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I think pressure needs to be put to bear on the county, the city, and Ogdensburg Police Department have done a lot of work protecting our citizens and helping the county. And it's really unfortunate that they are trying to take our money when sales tax is benefiting us all and it's growing. So I appreciate your comments. Next.
The next individual is registered as Kathleen Weir, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. Kathleen Weir, it appears you are self-muted. Mayor, would you like me to move on?
Yeah, maybe we can come back to her. Maybe it's an accident.
Other than that one individual, I do not see any other hands raised.
And she still hasn't unmuted herself.
Oh, I apologize. Another hand has just gone up. I could move to that person and then
Sure.
circle back.
Yep.
That's okay. The next individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Hello. Thanks for the
Hi, Greg.
opportunity. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm calling addressing an issue I had with the Ogdensburg Police Department. On Sunday morning, the 5th,
Oh,
I
Greg,
was at a local gas.
Oh, Greg, just one thing, just talk about the police department, not a specific officer. If you have something with a specific officer, forward that to the city and that'll be internal, okay?
Not a problem. Not a problem. No names needed to be mentioned here. I went into Stewart's Sunday morning, the 5th, to get a cup of coffee. My nephew was in my truck. I came outside with the cup of coffee, and a gentleman that lives across the street had come over and notified me that someone just backed into my truck and took off. My nephew was already out of the truck. He felt him hit the truck. He got out, saw the people drive away. I called the PD. They sent an officer down. They took all of our information. The officer then acted like he was going to go in the store and try to further investigate. There's cameras all over this gas station. So we left. He said because of the holiday, the following Monday, I wouldn't get a report until Tuesday, which I said was fine. I called Tuesday afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock. I was then told that officer was on vacation and I had to wait. Well, today would be day 8 and I still haven't heard, but today was the day this officer was supposed to be back to work. I asked if another officer could handle the situation. The dispatcher then kind of got angry with me. So I let it go. I said, okay. Well, then I thought, well, maybe I'll investigate this. So I called back and said, if I, go to this gas station and can get the camera footage or some proof somehow, another officer could handle this. No, I was told absolutely not. It was the way they do things, and I had to wait. I think this policy should be changed. It's ridiculous. Why should the person who backed into my vehicle be able to have a week to cover this up or whatnot? Now, like I said, today the officer was back, so I was told. I haven't heard from them yet, but I have done some investigating myself. An employee at the gas station informed me they could not show me the footage. It has to be a police officer, but they do have outside footage, inside footage, and then outside footage again of the woman who backed into my vehicle. They were also kind enough today when I went back into this same gas station to hand me a piece of paper with the woman who backed into me's license plate number because they recognized her. So I would really appreciate it if the PD would contact me because I have all the information you need to go after this person. I went out and did it on my own. I think this policy needs to be changed. Just because someone goes on vacation, the world doesn't stop turning. And if the police department's understaffed or too busy to handle these things, maybe they need help from outside departments figuring some of this stuff out. I'm done with that. The next thing I would like to talk about is this so-called group who has started a lawsuit against the mayor. I seen some of the t-shirts, We Are Ogdensburg. There was a photo in a news release with 30 people out front of City Hall. That is less than 1% of the city of Ogdensburg. To have shirts saying We Are Ogdensburg, it's a very prestigious statement for such a tiny group of people. That's all I have to say. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The next individual is registered as Margaret Haggerty, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay. First of all, a shout out to our founding fathers for the great Constitution of the United States. Gouverneur Morris is often referred to as the penman of the Constitution because he wrote the preamble, which is pretty cool to know. Obviously, we know of Governor and we know of Morristown. But I encourage everybody within earshot to read the document during Constitution Week. It's a good reminder to read it. A lot of us haven't read it in many, many years, probably since high school. And then also to the previous caller, those shirts have significance, not so much that only representing that small group, but there was somebody in particular who made a big statement of saying, I am Ogdensburg, and that everything goes through him. And we just want to say we're all Ogdensburg, everybody. And happy birthday, Kathy. Thank you, everybody.
Is there anyone else?
I do not see any other hands raised.
We do have one letter, but it mentions a staff member.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, I have a prepared statement that the city manager asked me to say.
Oh,
A letter has been received from Brenda Cole and distributed to all members of council, and it's being addressed by the city manager.
wow.
We have one other piece of correspondence.
Oh, good.
My name is William Hosmer of 507 Elizabeth Street, and I am here representing a group of investors looking to build a brewery and a tap room in downtown Ogdensburg. 2 weeks ago, we formally submitted an offer to purchase 17 Main Street to the city of Ogdensburg. This is a vacant piece of land owned by the city of Ogdensburg and is up for discussion under Bill number 58 this evening. We consider 17 Main Street to be a keystone property that can transform the Marina District into a hub of tourism for this community. If we acquire this property, construction will begin in the spring of 2022, as we have already laid the groundwork with plans, contractors, and lending agencies. We have spent the last 2 years researching properties within the city and feel that 17 Main Street is the best property for us and is the perfect development opportunity for the city. With a modest $350,000 assessment, we would generate over $6,000 in city taxes, over $9,000 in school taxes, and our conservative estimates in revenue would also generate over $35,000 in sales tax each year, therefore generating over $50,000 per year in combined tax revenue. Not only would we be generating tax revenue, we would be enhancing tourism in the city, as breweries and tap rooms are one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. Ogdensburg has very little developable pieces of land left within the city, and 17 Main Street is one of them. We believe the city should sell this property with an RFP so the city can ensure this property is developed and aligns with the LWRP. As Bill number 8 currently reads, the city would sell this property at auction to the highest bidder. While auctions may generate a little more money up front, it does not guarantee that the property will be developed. We have proposed that if we do not develop 17 Main Street within 3 years, then we will turn it back over to the city so that someone else can develop it. City councilors are elected to lead the city, and part of that is choosing a direction for the city and ensuring that it is developed with the vision set forth. If multiple RFPs are submitted, maybe we can work together to make all of the projects work within the city, or if the city chooses to go in another direction, that is fine by us. However, we do not want the city to risk having another developable property lay vacant after it has been auctioned off, as we have seen happen time and time again. If the city chooses to move forward with the auction, then we highly encourage that you add the 3-year development clause to the purchase of 17 Main Street so that the city can ensure this property will eventually be developed. Every single one of you has spoken to how they want to develop the city and the waterfront, how they want to attract new business, how they want to increase our tax base. We believe that this is the perfect opportunity to do just that. We ask that you take a moment to really think about what would be in the long-term best interest of the city. What will make the city money now and continue to make the city money in the future. We feel that it would be a wasted opportunity to auction off another valuable piece of city property without any emphasis on potential future development. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with the city and city staff to continue the development of our beloved community.
Very good.
Kathy, could you please forward that over?
Yes, I'll forward it to all members of council.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Yes, thank you.
I agree with you 100%. I would sell it to them right now tonight. I mean, they have a great business and I don't see why we wouldn't just move on it to make the,
I think legally we have to have a public hearing.
I know, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it.
I say sell to them now. Anybody wants to spend money in this town, sell to them.
Absolutely.
They've got the reputation
I'm
to
with
back
you.
up everything they've
I
said.
mean, and especially with the clause in there
Yep.
to, if it's not developed, we give it back. I mean, I think he's quite serious though.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about
They're on
breaking,
the agenda right away then.
no, we're talking about breaking ground in, 6 months. I mean, that's obtainable. That could happen now. You know what I mean? Push the can down the road.
I agree.
I believe the ferries are, may need a portion also, to do the hotel. So I think, we need to listen to both and figure out how we can make both of these projects go ahead.
What property is 17 million?
It's the Garden.
Oh, the Garden property?
Has somebody else submitted a proposal?
The ferries have
Mayor,
put in all.
It's on the agenda for
Mayor,
action. Yeah,
It's on the
call
agenda.
for, public hearing and a public auction. Yeah. To the highest bidder. minimum bid
So let's
10,000.
wait till we get to that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it's more important than the money is that.
I know, but I'm just saying. Get to it?
They can work that out. So,
I think our city manager wants to. Yes, Steve?
I think I was just gonna say what Council said, if we can address it on the items for council action, so we can continue with public comment.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah. Let's go.
Yep. Okay, we're at our consent agenda. So the claims as enumerated in general fund warrant number 15-2021 in the amount of $3,092,995.55, and library warrant number 15-2021 in the amount of $26,812.62, and capital fund warrant number 15-2021 in the amount of $1,495,127.93. And community development fund warrant number 15-2021 in the amount of $169.58. And community renewal fund warrant number 15-2021 in the amount of $0. As audited, B and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comment? Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reish,
yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
I'm not sure if it's you, Mike. Could you self-mute and see if we have a background noise?
He's self-muted now.
Oh, thank you. So we have one appointment tonight. I make a motion to appoint Loretta Cook to a 5-year term on the Ogdensburg Public Library Board of Trustees. Terms to begin September 13th, 2021 and end December 31st, 2025. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Powers, you're self-muted, sir. Counselor Powers, would you like me to move on, Mayor, and see if we can come back?
To Mike.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you, sir. Approved.
And this brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
think it's Andrea. Sorry.
Oh, or Director of Planning, Andrea Smith.
Sorry, guess I didn't really. Resolution to call for a public hearing and public notice regarding proposed changes to the city charter and administrative regulations to relinquish the city's tax foreclosure responsibilities with the intent of all foreclosure responsibility defaulting to St. Lawrence County.
Oh, you have more? I'm sorry.
Give you a summary.
Be it resolved that the public hearing be held by the Ogdensburg City Council on the proposed changes to the city charter and administrative regulations to relinquish the city's tax foreclosure responsibility with the intent of all foreclosure responsibility defaulting to St. Lawrence County. Said public hearing to be held on September 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the City Council Chambers, City Hall. And be it further resolved that the city clerk is directed to publish notice of said hearing at least 7 days before the date of said hearing in the official newspaper of the city of Ogdensburg. And be it further resolved that the city clerk give notice of such public hearing by publication in the official newspaper at least 7 days before the hearing date of a notice setting forth the time and place and describing the proposed local law in summary form.
I'll make a motion for this.
Second.
It's my understanding that in 1995, when New York State passed legislation to allow cities to opt out of property tax foreclosure authority, they requested that all the cities put it in their charter that they wanted to keep it. And so we did, and now we need to take it out so that we can be relieved of this financial responsibility of paying the school for their uncollected property tax and paying the county, which has been, probably on average $1.1 million a year. And if we're successful, Messina's been getting over $500,000 a year, and the county would make us whole. So it's a big financial benefit to do this. Anyone else?
So this is something I supported for a long time, and I'm glad to see it here. Question, is it legal?
Yeah, lawyer, and she says it's legal, and the county says, they don't really say if it's not, but.
They haven't responded at all. Right, they haven't responded at all.
Who's saying it? Who's saying it's legal?
Our law firm. I mean.
Do we have any written notice of, do we have anything expressing, I see the changes to be made to the charter, but do we have anything written from the law firm to share with all of us related to this? I know that there's been an extension granted for tax property foreclosures, I believe, into December. And I know this is for collection purposes, and
Yeah, this
with
all
that being
out.
said, we would have to change, from what I understand, we would have to change our collection dates, the whole 9 yards, which is pointed out. But all that aside, where is this legal opinion?
Mayor, I can
We are
jump in
not-
here.
Yes, Steve, please.
No, go ahead, sir. I'll wait for you. So I provided Councilor Powers, I provided you 2 updates on this. The most recent was last week with the letter that went to the county from our attorney. I haven't received any questions on it from any of you to further give clarification, but I can say in summary tonight, the law firm representing us believes that all of our points are absolutely on firm ground with legal standing, with exception of the unprecedented action of the county being forced to reimburse us for delinquent property taxes as they do all other towns and school districts in the county. So I do believe, for the most part, my discussion with the county staff, county attorney on this for the last 6 months, there wasn't a lot of question about us ceasing collecting their property tax. We're under absolutely no obligation to do that. We've done that again, because that is the process that all other towns do in the county. Now, the towns are required by law to provide the initial tax collection for the county. We are not. So that point number one is going back. The second, and probably most important for us, is the foreclosure authority. That again, I think if you just refer to the two updates I've sent you, it's very clear in there, the sections of real property law that talk about when we relinquish our authority to be a foreclosure authority, that defaults to the next higher level of government. In this case would be the county. The topic of the school district also falls well in suit with that. Again, we would not have foreclosure authority anymore, so the school district would still need someone to perform that function in the absence of the city doing it. So that also would default for the county, as the county does currently for our school district for those properties that are not within the city limits. So the only point that I would tell you, I believe, is challengeable and likely will be challenged by the county, will be the notion that they will have to make us whole, if you will, for the amount of delinquent property tax, so that we don't have to go on collecting that. Again, the same process they do for all the other towns and villages. And it is unfortunate that during our negotiations, starting with sales tax, that the county saw fit, they'd like us to adhere to and follow the same formula for the distribution of sales tax, but at every opportunity, they don't want to provide us the same service. So I believe we're on strong legal ground. Certainly the county doesn't have to agree with us, but we've not heard anything from the county on any of the correspondence that we have sent. And I believe now, again, what we're not going to allow to occur is the county to stall this matter any longer and put us in a position to not be able to make change for another year.
So to that end, I see that the attorney cited a court case in terms of the first part of the law, Orange County versus City of Newburgh, and in terms of collecting the taxes. What I don't see is the second part of the law, real property tax law 936 going forward, that they would make their credit the city and make us whole. Has there been a court case that sets precedence on that, or is this probably going to be the first?
Likely could be the first, Counselor.
So the only other issue that I have with it personally is we're removing the grievance day for people, the third Tuesday of June in each year, whichever date is later. The date for hearing on complaints concerning assessments shall be provided by the real property tax law of the state of New York. So is there going to be a grievance day, and what is that day?
I think the intent here, and I'll let Kathy jump in, I think the intent here was for us to not have the charter become in contradiction with state law, should state law change at some point. Kathy, you want to add to that?
That is correct, sir. In doing the research, we found that our charter made specific reference to dates, and trying to be in line and uniform with everyone else, it was best that we just say in accordance with the New York State.
Okay. So is that going to vary, do we think, every year, or?
I believe there is a small variation. It does just by days, sir.
Okay.
It's not a huge variation. It may be a certain date of a certain year of a certain month, and it may be, for instance, the 23rd and then the following year it may be the 24th.
Okay. So this is for a public hearing. By the time this public hearing takes place, can we get an answer to that question that I asked in regards to the county making us whole if there was a prior court case to set precedents or not, from the attorneys, please, in time for the public hearing?
Yes, I've got that, Councilor Scamper. I'll get that tomorrow. And then Councilor Powers, the last point I wrote down on yours, just is after talking with each of you about this issue early on, it was clear that changing the date for city tax collection was not something any of you were in support of. So that is not going to occur. The city collection date will remain the same as it has been.
Thank you.
I see very little choice, but voting on this. In fact, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. The city has not been able to pay the county in whole for the uncollected taxes. The city has had to borrow up until last year over $1 million to pay the school because they didn't have the cash flow. And then had to wait until they collected taxes to pay it. We're under attack. And this is one way to counter it and stay financially viable. So anyone else wish to speak? No.
Yeah, I view it as an antiquated policy that resulted in the city owing the county over $800,000 in unpaid taxes that were never collected. It should have been changed years ago, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a downtown revitalization initiative grant application for up to $20 million.
I'll move that.
I'll second that.
So this is the downtown revitalization initiative application. I guess the one thing I'd point out is the state has asked for applicants to prepare applications focused on the request for $10 million, which up until this year was the maximum amount. This year, municipalities or applicants can request up to $20,000. There's no requirement that you do. 20 million.
Yeah, so it's
20 million. There's no requirement that you do, but you do have the option to request up to $20 million. So we have put together, as I articulated earlier, our projects total over 40 million. So we will take advantage of that portion of the application and would happily accept a larger award. I don't know what the region will decide. It's up to each region to decide whether they will award 2 communities $10 million or 1 community 20. I feel like the North Country has great needs, so I hope that the region will seriously consider all of the applications and make 2 awards as opposed to 1. But we will make a case for the 20 because we have the ability to do so, and we will do our very best.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
No, I think it's great.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business is an ordinance to amend the official city map to dissolve a portion of Paper Cherry Street, generally described as being 60 feet in width and 690 feet in length between Lake Street and Maple City Trail. Tax map parcel 59.022-4-58.1. It is bill number 57, and it was tabled on December 14th, 2020. I will make a motion to take this resolution off the table. Could I get a second, please?
Second it.
So we have it off the table. Do we have?
Yeah, call roll.
Oh, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
This is to take it off the table?
Yes.
correct, approved.
Now we have it off the table.
Discussion.
Discussion.
What's changed since it was tabled?
I'd be happy to respond to that.
A lot of time.
Yes, a lot of time. So this was tabled in December following the review by the planning board, which is required in accordance with our charter for any change to the city's official map. At the time, the request was presented to the planning board, and due to some outstanding factors specifically pertaining to infrastructure, the request was not recommended by city staff. And therefore, after discussion with the planning board did not make a resolution to approve the dissolution. There was discussion with council about whether or not dissolution could go forward if there was an easement. And so we did reach out to the property owner, who did respond back, the property owner that expressed an interest in having the paper street dissolved. If and when we dissolve paper streets, we then auction them, so there's no guarantee that the person that initiated the request is the person that gets the property in the end. But we did consult with them, and they were in favor of an easement. They didn't seem to be dissuaded, so we had conversations with the land surveyor about the cost of that. We haven't had the easement drawn up, but this resolution would dissolve the street, which would allow the city to sell it, and staff would recommend selling it with the easement if in fact council is interested in dissolving it.
Yeah, it's still sold at public auction already.
Yes, it's required to be sold at public auction because the dissolution of a street is the creation of a new parcel. It is not exempt through the tax sale foreclosure process. It wouldn't have been acquired by tax sale. So we would have to sell it at public auction.
And the easement was necessary because we may or may not need a sewer overhaul.
Yeah, it's a good location for a future stormwater discharge or separation project, I guess I should say. And I'm sure if you want to talk more about that our Director of Public Works, Shane Brown, could speak much more intelligently on it. But yes, that is an area where we could do that type of separation, and we may in the near future need to be able to do that. In fact, we would want the opportunity to do that if we had endless money. So we don't want to, from a staff perspective, we don't want to reduce our opportunities for stormwater separation. So the easement will allow us to do that in the future. Sorry.
We don't need to have a public hearing.
We did have a public hearing.
We already held it.
You can have another one if you'd like.
The only change is that we're going to have the easement.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
So this language looks broad. Was this drawn up by the attorney to stick that in there? Together with and subject to any easements, exceptions, rights, privileges, obligations, covenants, and conditions of record. So if we didn't have a specific easement drawn up because of money.
We would draw the easement up at the time of sale. We just wouldn't draw it up in advance of any sale.
Okay.
So if the property went to auction and nobody bought it, the street would no longer be there because you all would have dissolved the street, but it would be then a city-owned parcel.
That is subject to an easement.
So any future sale would be subject to the easement. And at that point in time, you could invest the money and incorporate that into the minimum sale price.
Yep, excellent. That was the holdup last time. I talked to the homeowner or the potential buyer as well during the winter and right after that meeting actually, and he had no problem with that. So.
And we're trying to reduce storm water runoff into, right, the permitted things. We're trying to reduce them, not increase them.
Yeah, we would like to reduce stormwater runoff, but we'd also like to, in general, and we'd like to reduce it going into our wastewater plant specifically, because that's, in theory, rainwater that doesn't need to be treated in the same way that wastewater needs to be treated.
But we don't want stormwater going into our rivers either.
Correct.
Right.
Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Approved.
Our last item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
A resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to hold a public auction. A resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to hold a public auction of surplus real property. Whereas staff has reviewed the following property and recommend that the city council declare as surplus city-owned property fit for public sale, 17 Main Street. And whereas said property was acquired by tax sale proceedings in accordance with real property tax law. And whereas the city manager has established a minimum sale price of $10,000. Be it further resolved that the property at 17 Main Street shall be published for sale by public auction to be held at City Hall at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, September 29th, 2021, in the City Council Chambers at City Hall, 330 Ford Street, Ogdensburg, New York, 13669.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. So an auction.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes, Steve.
Can I just provide a little context? Just so I wanted to just answer a couple of questions from earlier. So we have received a total of 3 inquiries on this property. I wasn't specifically told by either of the 2 party or other 2 parties that I could disclose their organizational name or ideas, but there are 2 other entities in addition to the letter that council was presented tonight. I think in a lot of regards, I shared the sentiments read by Mr. Hosmer. I won't speak for Andrea, I'll certainly let her speak for herself, but I think again, in the theme of what we've been trying to do, which is ensure that the city is moving forward in a positive and an immediate direction in some of the properties, that certainly is our desire. However, from my perspective, and the reason I've made this recommendation to council is that because we have 3 inquiries that are all local, I just felt it could put the city in a bit of a difficult position trying to navigate a criteria that may not be based solely on cost. I think at the end of the day, somebody always will feel like they were given the short end of the stick, for lack of a better word. So I don't know that this is an easy call. I certainly agree with Mr. Hosmer. It's council's responsibility to provide the leadership on this. I just feel my recommendation is nothing more than I don't see a clear path of how somebody may not feel like, again, they weren't potentially treated fairly. I guess I'll just say, if this were a property such as the Diamond, where we know we're going to see mostly right now our interest has been out of town, large developers, it's a big money project with a lot going on, a lot at stake. I think that is a project in and of itself. I want to ensure that the process that I recommend to council is fair to all parties. So again, I was not told specifically that I could speak to anyone else's name or ideas. I think at least one entity I think has contacted most all of you, if not all of you. So that's kind of where I came from with this recommendation. And I'd like to give Andrew just a minute to kind of give you her context, is then you all deliberate the pros and cons.
Thank you.
In the past, I have advocated for the sale of catalytic properties through the RFP process. I continue to advocate for the sale of catalytic properties through the RFP process. The RFP process is, as Mr. Hosmer articulated, as the city manager, it's the request for proposals. The city manager is not wrong that in doing a request for proposals, it may be perceived, the evaluation criteria should be established in the request for proposal, so it's clear to anyone proposing on the site, but the weighing and evaluating of those criteria is subject to interpretation.
I'm sorry.
So he is not wrong that those processes can sometimes be interpreted as being unfair, especially when you have local parties expressing interest. This particular property, in my professional view of the Marina District and the downtown as a whole, has always been a catalytic property. I do not think it's in the city's long-term best interest to sell it at public auction to the highest bidder without specific restrictions. some of which have been specifically mentioned by Mr. Hosmer this evening. I think that selling property at the highest bidder very well could put all three of the potential property are interested buyers out of the question, and someone that we don't know could come in with much larger, deeper pockets, who has no intention of doing development, but simply can see the benefit of the potential property because we're investing in a downtown revitalization initiative application. So, Councilor Reish.
So it sounds like you favor the letter that was provided.
I support the RFP process, which was articulated in the letter.
But if we didn't have a letter, then, so you support the letter then?
Well, previous to tonight, I have articulated to our current city manager as well as the past city manager and previous councils that this site should, in my recommendation, be sold through the RFP process. We haven't been able to actually sell the property for a long, it's only been available for sale until very recently when we received and closed out our Restore New York grant.
So you support the letter, that project?
Not that specific one.
I mean, I support the sale of 17 Main Street, 420 Lafayette Street, the Diamond National property, the Shade Roller property, and all future Augsbury properties that we would come to acquire through the RFP process.
So do I.
When we got a letter, how many months ago did we get the letter from the Frarys? How come we didn't do an RFP then?
I have never seen any other letter, personally. Not saying it doesn't exist. I have not
Went
seen.
to all the council. Went to everybody.
I didn't get one.
We discussed it and I brought it up at the last meeting. So I see.
I'm not questioning that. I'm only saying that I haven't
Into
seen
an
it.
issue of favoritism when you don't follow, you know, and I'm talking to everybody. I'm not just talking to Andrea. Where you get into a situation where, you know, you've had conversations, I'm sure, I mean, people have called you already to bend your persuade you to what to do. This is how it becomes subjective and not objective. And that's why, just want to finish, and that's why I think the best process is the one that's in our code and that's in state law. Our code doesn't say anything about RFPs or anything. I don't think state law does either. And that's why you handle these things this way. And you let the free market decide and you remove everybody's personal opinion and I understand the ultimate goal, but invariably you end up siding with one party over the other. And I just don't think that's the proper way to do it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but Johnny, if you get a guy that comes in and wants to buy Diamond National, put 32 units up, and another guy outbids him and doesn't do nothing for 10 years.
There's some things you can't control though. It's not government's job to, I mean,
Yeah, but
that has sat there for 20 years. So do I. That's why I'm in favor of a public.
They got a
What
plan.
we don't want is somebody buying the property and sitting on it.
That's right. I agree.
Period.
We've got enough property that's been bought.
We got
Sat
enough.
on.
So to your point, I think everybody that has submitted a proposal in detail, those proposals as of now, first of all, council should have seen them. We didn't, any of them. Second of all, this should be changed to a public hearing on if there's 3 proposals in detail, that should be included first thing tomorrow morning in our emails. And this should address, this amendment should addressing all 3 proposals at the next regular council meeting as an RFP. And then we go from there.
Mayor, can I just jump in here? Mayor, can I just jump in just so we're getting a little straight here for a minute. First of all, I want to let Andrea sit down. I want to be clear on what she said. She's not favoring the letter. She's favoring using an RFP process. Mr. Hosmer doesn't ask for an RFP process. Mr. Hosmer asked for us to consider selling him the property. So I want to free Andrea from anyone saying she's favoring the letter. That's not the intent.
His letter specifically requested an RFP project, if I heard it correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It should be an RFP process, absolutely, by everybody.
So let me just say, let me finish. And then Councilor Scamperly and Councilor Reach, I'm not aware, I've not ever seen any other offers to purchase. The other 2 parties that have spoken to me have spoken to me on a couple of occasions expressing interest. wanting to know when the city was going to sell the property, when it was going to be available, et cetera, et cetera. As Andrea just said, it has only recently been in our purview to even talk about it through finishing the grant closeout process. And Mr. Hosmer submitted a letter for consideration. So that has brought us to this point. So I think the discussion really needs to be how does council want to move forward? It's certainly a good topic for debate, but there's been I don't have any other authors to present, or you would have had them. I'm simply making the point to you all. I know there's some other interest out there, and I just want those facts to be known.
But there was another letter several months ago from an attorney representing another party that was interested and requested it be sold at public auction.
Yes.
But
We
the
all
property wasn't
How come we
able
haven't
to be
seen?
sold.
It was sent to the whole, it was sent to the
I
whole,
didn't get it. Trust me, I go
It
through
was-
it like I'm fine.
no, it was sent to the whole council.
Um,
Or it was sent to the manager.
So I'd like to say, you bring up some valid points, John. But the city needs to be developed. So I believe that this property, I believe in this council will make a judgment that's best for the city. Nothing personal to anyone. It will make a judgment that is best for the development of the city. So I am in favor of the proposal.
I'm in favor of development, and the best way to promote development is not to own land. To get it into private ownership through the process that's in our local law, which is a public auction.
So we have this in front of us. So we probably vote on this, and then if it fails, we'll vote on, bring a resolution, bring a resolution forward.
I'd like to amend this to simply, excuse me, I don't mean to cut you off, I'm just saying a suggestion. I'd like to amend this, that we move forward with an RFP on whatever proposal has been given to us. If it's three, there's three. If there's one, there's one. But we do it all at the next public hearing, or at the next public meeting. And that's the way this should be sold.
Maybe we should.
I think this is going to generate a lot of interest in that property.
I tend to agree, Councilor Fisher. I tend to agree with Councilor Fisher. I think we're in the midst of this tract of properties in our DRI settlement or DRI investment. This might draw top dollar outside of a public auction through an RFP process. And not only that, but might include additional properties adjacent to it.
That area is going to be potentially, hopefully, we win. The showcase of Ogdensburg, that those parcels that surround that area in that water, it's everybody's got an opportunity to, and who knows what else could that.
And you might end up,
here in bed.
if you haven't even called for a public hearing, you might have 6 people or 7 people at the public auction, all raising the price, and you don't know what any of them have planned for it. But you want to control. That's not a governmental entity.
But outside of control, let's face it, we're at the mercy of the state right now, and we're in competition for a large tract of investment property in the city of Ogdensburg. Are we putting the cart before the horse here?
Well, actually, this is included on that.
I think you're right.
It's right in the DRI that you have a brewery.
That's kind of ironic in and of itself. They don't even have site control or ownership.
Well, he wouldn't have to put the DRI.
It's a plan. It's a plan, a potentially viable plan.
It's a
plan that brings revenue, not just.
just in the talks of sales tax dollars, let alone there's a proven track record of success. There's a proven track record of making our waterfront a more inviting area that, is able to be enjoyed by many. And this isn't just saying that this is only going to be a venue for adults only. Upon looking at things, it looks like there could be different events even held there. My point of view is I think that that's the right type of environment, the right type of
So you
way I
support,
would like
you
to see.
support one thing over any others that haven't even been.
No, I'm saying that I support a plan that is obtainable and that has obtainable dates, times, and that people are saying we can do this. So I'm not saying this is the only thing that could possibly go there, but I'm saying the time frame is in our DRI. I would like to see the RFP process used rather than a general blanketed auction, which doesn't even guarantee that we'll see the area develop. They can continue to sit as it is and somebody could just pay taxes on empty property.
So it sounds like council's already leaning toward who they want to develop it.
I'm not leaning towards anybody. I'm saying I favor the
It's
RFP
in the
process.
DRI.
We just voted on a DRI.
That's
It's in the
included in.
DRI.
That's my point.
This developer filled out an application.
They don't even own the land. It seems fixed.
So
Just to the
Didn't even
DRI,
know it was available.
just to the DRI, that has been a city-owned parcel for several years. And we didn't preclude anybody from submitting proposals on property that was city-owned. So just to be clear about that. Also, as I stated earlier this evening, we are highlighting 10 projects that are consistent with community-driven plans in our application. Yes, they are tied to specific parcels. They may not be the projects that end up happening. That's the case with all DRI applications. The projects that are submitted in the application have to be well conceived of and consistent with community plans, and they have to have well-developed budgets. But they are not necessarily the projects that end up coming to fruition if and when the community is awarded the DRI. Whether it's a project that the community is really in support of or not at this point, it doesn't mean that that would be a project that would come to fruition in the end.
So it's entirely possible that we could have a public auction. Someone could buy it, be the highest bidder, and propose to you $1 million project there that's unbelievable, that you've never conceived of or heard of.
Somebody could buy this
And that could
property,
be amended.
propose to for $20 million and propose to you a $300 billion project going there.
Well, no one's going to propose anything to me. Those projects all are ultimately submitted to the city council for approval.
My point is, the council should stay out of personalities and everything else,
Right.
and there should be a public auction, and whoever bids the most, that's the way it's done.
I want to see this property protected. I want to see this property fit in with a community development plan that calls for what's supposed to take place in our our Marina district. And this does, whether it was Bill Hosmer or anybody, I'm going to support an RFP process, go to public and move, because I want it on the tax rolls ASAP. I don't want somebody to buy this property and sit on it. And I certainly don't want to happen what happened on Green Street, where we go public auction, the guy walks away, and now the city's sinking tens of thousands of dollars into a piece of property that we could have had sold and put into private development. That process is wrong. If we can avoid it and follow state law like this is, then we should be doing it.
Couldn't say it any better.
have we put it out for advertisement? This is just interest. We can advertise it to everyone.
That's correct. So if the council wanted to, I don't know what the council wants to do. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of different perspectives. You certainly could amend this resolution and direct staff to prepare an RFP that could be presented to council at the next meeting. Is there someone trying to speak?
Councilor Powers, could you mute yourself again for, thank you.
Yes, sorry.
So I think that would be great. Well, why don't we take the same approach that we're taking with the Diamond property? You know, we go through the proposals, its price and the end product, you know, for the city. And I don't see why we wouldn't do the same thing with this property.
We just put conditions on it.
I don't think there should be conditions either.
Well, you just simply say, what's your project? What's your start date? When are you going to finish it? If you don't finish it by that time, it reverts back.
Does it meet with the community development? Right.
The bottom line is stop it dead in its tracks or take it back.
You know, we look at.
If you accept it based on the conditions, regardless of whether or not you pay or you don't, you know, I mean, we can still take it back because you didn't fulfill your obligation.
So you want to amend this to say,
I'm not,
She can't amend
I'm
it.
not doing
No.
anything.
I'm talking to Counselor Fisher, sorry about that. So you'd like to amend this to say, the city is going to put out an RFP on 17 Lake Street.
Main Street.
Excuse me. And you got, just like we did with Diamond, 30 days or something like that. And with conditions, and we can vote on that at the next council meeting.
I don't know if we should rush on it.
Alternatively,
What about-
you could have a public auction in November or December.
I'm not for public.
And you could market it in the meantime if you're so interested in getting people interested. You still have a public auction and be objective. And being objective is picking the highest.
I want stipulations. I think if we get 2 or 3 proposals, and we can talk about it and have some public hearing on these proposals, then we can make a decision.
Why don't we just put a price on it?
We already do. It's 10,000.
Let's take the proposals, pick the best proposal. That's good for the city.
I would like to see a similar approach to Diamond. We'll market it with the RFP conditions and give it some time. We don't have to rush with 60 days and of marketing. And
starting with DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel Syracuse. You can ask Siri to report any
I'm sorry,
accidents or
Mike.
hazards you see on the way.
You're having some noise interference. So,
Mayor,
I mean.
Mayor, if I could.
Yep.
So we have what I'd like to avoid tonight is a third process. We've spent a lot of time, excuse me, we have a very comprehensive plan of how we're going about the gathering of offers through the RFP for all of our brownfield properties. If you'll all recall, we put some emphasis and kind of did a kickstart on the Diamond property to take advantage of getting something out this year. But we have, ultimately hired a firm to do the marketing for all of our brownfield properties, of which this would ultimately be one of those properties that we would be moving through the process with the criteria that has been established. And we've discussed that with you all. Like, we can certainly send that out again so council can see that and see what's involved. I don't think we're talking about an exorbitant amount of time, but we have a lot of, as Andrew indicated, we have several other brownfield properties, and the goal certainly is to get all of them up and in the RFP process and for sale. We've got a steering board that has got, again, a diverse group of folks that we put together so that when we bring you recommendations on how to move forward, it's well thought out. So I just would like to say to council, if we could consider, as Councilor Reese stated, we have a process. The public auction process is very well defined, very well codified in law. The other process by garnering potential offers through this RFP process, I also feel like will stand legal challenges and the fairness test, if you will. So I'd like to not create another one in that. So if council needs more information on how we're doing that, what the criteria will look like as we get ready very soon to start evaluating proposals coming in on the Diamond property. I think that same process, if council chooses to use the RFP process over the auction process, would be the one you'd want to use, not create a third.
So motion's made and seconded. You want to call the roll?
On this particular resolution?
Yes.
I'll be voting no.
So what are we going on? Public auction to what?
Public auction with a minimum bid of $10,000.
If you want the RFP, if you would vote no on this, if you want an auction, you'd vote yes.
So you vote no.
I don't think we should have an auction.
Right, so you're gonna vote no.
You know, agree?
You would have a no vote if you want the RFP.
I vote yes.
Oh.
Because I'm in favor of development and being fair and objective.
Yes and no. I'll tell you something right now. We got to get it going.
Yep, we do. That's why we're going to have a public auction, and then we're going to step aside.
So
That's right. That's what the public auction's for.
John's way would probably be quick. If you,
Somebody could sit on
for
it.
long
It's
term,
going to be developed.
I agree.
That's the
so
That's the problem. There's no guarantee it's gonna be developed.
Right.
Nonetheless.
Right. Whereas the offer, the proposal, the RFP process guarantees.
Doesn't matter if it's a diamond, any
There's
process.
a reason we're using it for the diamond, but there's a reason we're using it for that.
can, instead of voting on this, can we vote to amend it to an RFP?
That's what I suggested in the beginning.
No, and conditions. That you have to, like, there's a time
Steve,
frame. We're not gonna just.
Steve was just asking you not to do that.
I thought,
Well, sorry.
I thought he was fine with it, same as the diamond. We always had that process, right?
Right, and it won't take that long, because we already got the process.
And I don't, you don't, I would recommend you don't have to modify this, this resolution. I think you need to vote it up or down. This property would have been coming to you as part of the brownfield process anyway. So I don't feel like we need any direction to do that. It's already there. Council would be giving us direction to do a public auction through this, but if this direction is no, we'll just continue down the path that we are already going. We certainly will do what we can do to expedite.
Steve, could you forward that letter that we received months ago from the other party that was interested in the plan? Make sure everybody on council has a copy of that.
Councilor Powers, could you mute yourself again?
I would like all proposals submitted to us as council. I don't know why we didn't see these.
I haven't seen it.
It went out there.
But I didn't get it.
No, not on the River Street.
There's a lot of them, so. Kathy, okay, we're ready to vote, everyone?
So let's
Well,
clarify.
if I can, I'd like to comment just real quick here. And I apologize for jumping in and out and creating any distraction. I was kind of waiting till the end. I mean, we're talking about possibly amending, and correct me if I'm wrong, amending it to include RFPs with certain stipulations. Well, what do those stipulations look like? I mean, what are we?
We're voting up or down on the existing
On the original resolution?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Jeez.
Oh, could you mute yourself again, Counselor?
Yes, sir.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Fisher,
As it sits, I believe, dear Christ. No.
Counselor Kennedy,
No.
Counselor Powers,
No.
Counselor Reach,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
No.
Mayor Skelly,
No.
Counselor Dilaba,
No.
denied.
Stand alone.
Sometimes that's good.
Sometimes it is.
Yep.
So old business, we have one item of old business, and we will begin with City Manager Stephen Jelly.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, all, I apologize. I am a little bit behind in sending you some stuff. You'll have the written City Beach update in your email tomorrow, including all the test results. If I haven't told all of you, I have a second son as of a couple days ago, so I've been a little distracted.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. With that being said, I can give you the high points, and this is really the parts I wanted to talk about anyway. We spent in the neighborhood of $18,000. I think that's a number that's on people's mind. How much money we spent preparing for the opening of City Beach. I believe that we did a good thing this year. We did a good job. We know a lot of things. I wished we had been able to cut the ribbon and open it for the 2021 season, but we just didn't get there. And ultimately, the reason we didn't get there, I think, is what is the topic of a lot of conversation, and it really just amounts to this. at the end of the day, we had generally good readings. You'll see all those when you get them. We had some readings that were significantly high at some points in time for E. coli. So we went to work researching what was making that happen, because it wasn't something we were seeing every day. There wasn't a significant pattern on when we had a storm and we had more runoff. There seemed to be several things potentially contributing to it. We ran down all the physical lines, runs, things like that. You'll see that contained in the report that we've submitted. But ultimately, I do believe what has been keeping our numbers high is the presence of geese, which is not unheard of at lots of beaches. It's something that we will have to deal with. I think also understand too, we had a pretty short curve on our testing. The health department was willing to work with us. What normally would have been samples over an 8 to 10 week period, they shorted to a 4 to 5 week period. Having less samples over a long period of time isn't necessarily the way to get a highly accurate picture of what the quality of the water is long term. So I don't feel like under any circumstances that the effort was lost. We certainly cleaned up the area, cleaned up the property. We found an old water line that has been running for years that was not disconnected, and took care of that matter. We created, we fixed a drainage issue that was keeping an area of the land on the property there unnecessarily wet and not set up the best for significant runoffs from the drainage pond to the top. And I think we've created a vision of what the city can look forward to going forward. I don't understand the concern that the city was not doing all it could do to ensure public safety and public health. We were working hand in hand with the oversight agencies that ensure that, and we will continue to do that. I will be proposing to council in the coming year that we continue with the testing from now right up until the next beach season, so we get an ample and long-term adequate sampling of the water quality there, using the very detailed testing process and procedures the state has laid out to help us achieve that and not be unnecessarily handicapped by any particular one factor. So I know certainly there was obvious disappointment that we weren't able to open it for this summer season. I don't think, again, that it was effort wasted. I think it's effort going towards a project. I guess I'll say there were some people out there that certainly said you're trying to push it too hard. I don't think we were trying to push it too hard. We were trying to do the right thing and be ready for the summer season. And I really believe that we've got a great opportunity to be able to open the beach next year once we are able to establish the long-term testing. So that is overall, I guess, what my input is on the beach. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. The engineer's reports will be coming to you tomorrow, along with each of the codified and written test results from the lab, so that everyone can see the information. There's nothing to hide. Everybody, we've talked about it since the get-go, what the challenges were. Our DPW did great, heroes work down there working in a short amount of time to get it ready. So if the stars all aligned and we were able to open it, there wouldn't have been any physical barrier to doing that. Shane and I have discussed on a number of occasions courses of action, and we're working with the engineer firm to provide greater handicap accessibility. Again, that was not a factor that we didn't want to provide, but with a short timeline, we certainly didn't want to not open the beach if it was at all possible to get some people the enjoyment. I do believe in continuing to go forward. We'll have some opportunity to look at addressing those for a potential opening in 2022.
I know you and Shane, the DPW crew, worked hard, and I want to thank everyone for the effort. And next year, we'll get it.
Yep.
And I don't want to leave out, and I'm sorry, this will sound like a second effort, but I just want to mention the Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority worked with us again every step of the way. Their maintenance staff was terrific, stepped up to help us, and I can't thank them enough for stepping up in this effort to support something that will ultimately be really, really good for Augsburg.
You're right. I should have thought of them. Thank you. And this brings us to new business. We have 2 items for new business, and we will begin with City Manager Steve Jelly.
Great, sir, just briefly, what I'd like to do tonight is just talk about some recommendations from Angela and I on how to begin the process of distributing the funds that we've received in the first half of our American Rescue Plan Act. I'm going to let Angela make some comments about it, and then we can have some discussion about how we move forward and what council would like to see us do.
Good evening. One of the options, well, just to back up a little bit, we, as a refresher, we received an original allotment of $1,066,000. Subsequent to our last meeting, we were provided another little over $4,000. So right now, our total money that the city is due under this legislation is $1,070,000 rounded. We have received the first half of this money, so $535,000. Part of the funding, the city is allowed to use the money to recuperate revenue that was lost due to the COVID pandemic. And the legislation speaks to a very specific calculation of this revenue. Using the allowed calculation based on revenue trends from 2016 through 2019, over comparison with 2020, it's a kind of a little bit of a complex calculation. The city would be entitled to about $530,000 approximately of ARPA funding that it could retain for the 2020 year of lost revenue. This isn't necessarily indicative of the general fund revenue that was lost due to the pandemic. If we went through and analyzed the general fund revenue for areas of lost revenue due to City Hall being closed and all the other situational events that happened around the COVID-19 pandemic, the numbers would support that the general fund lost approximately $50,000 to $55,000 in fees. So the recommendation for the 2020 year would be to have the city retain of its allotted lost revenue amount approximately $100,000 to cover the lost fees of 2020, and as a very high estimate, the lost fees of what we would anticipate for 2021. And I'm not saying we're losing fees, just there will be some impact to this recent uptick of COVID-19. So if we were to say, okay, we have 535 available right now, recommending that the city retain $100,000 of that, the next area that I think we have spoken about focusing on are to assist our not-for-profits and small businesses in the COVID-19 pandemic and helping them get some assistance as they were impacted by that as well. So the next step 2, and this is all at council's direction, would be to poll the community of not-for-profits and small businesses to determine just what the need is out there, rather than a flat allotment that is determined by council, to poll the community members in those 2 segments first to see what there would possibly be for need, and then come back to council and work on that in the next 3-4 weeks, and then in the first meeting of October come back to council with a recommendation based on that input of how much could possibly be allotted to the not-for-profits and small businesses.
That would include like illegal advertising, seeking what not-for-profits are looking for.
I don't know, John, that we need to do a legal advertisement per se, but we do need to do some advertising, letting them know that the city is doing this program and asking them to submit a written request.
I thought we did that.
No,
There
we
was
haven't.
be a link on the city website where somebody, a nonprofit or business could submit an interest in gaining some money.
Not to my knowledge. related to these funds, no.
Since we would be allocating public funds, you might want to look into whether it needs to be a legal notice that gives proper notice to everybody in some sort of public way.
Okay, that's not a problem.
I think what we're looking for tonight, council, is ultimately the buy-in from council that there are ultimately 5 buckets as the comptroller and I see it. The first one being just ensuring that the city government money that needs to be replaced is replaced. And as she briefed, the amount of money that the formula would allow us to do could ultimately consume the entire allotment, which we certainly don't have a need to do that. And we've talked before about wanting this money to go directly to where it will do the greatest good. So I'm looking tonight just for council's ultimate buy-in on the 5 buckets, the reimbursement or the setting aside of money to cover potential city losses and revenue, not-for-profit businesses being 1, 2 being small business, 3 being individual assistance, and then 4 being city infrastructure projects, perhaps money that could go towards matching funds on one of our current projects that we need out there, or that we have grants for, and or an additional study. But I thought instead of having a significant competition of all 4 that we're trying to determine how best to suit the money, that we'd aim for the first 2 right away. So the reason, Councilor Scamperly, and yes, we have talked about this, and we've garnered some interest from both the not-for-profits and the small businesses. I agree with Councilor Reich. I believe that two things exist. Number one, we need to make sure that it's legal and providing an official public notice that talks about how we're distributing funds, even if it's grant funds. And secondly, just to ensure that we have reached out there to all these organizations and groups, and we provided an expected criteria. The one thing I don't think that it's pertinent for us to do is just say, just send us in your needs. That Angela will prepare an expected criteria that goes along the lines of what we've seen, for instance, in the Paycheck Protection Program, that talks about demonstrating a loss or a need, or how you're going to further the economic conditions as it relates to COVID-19. So that's really what we're looking for this evening as we move forward, and then a short window, not looking for a month process here, a very short window to ensure that we've crossed the legal advertisement requirements and that we've given everybody a fair shake to know that this is out there, get those requests back, and then be able to come to council with quantifying a number of requests we have, the amount of money we think we should partition to that effort, awarding that money, and then moving on with the next 2 buckets, which would be individual assistance and city infrastructure projects.
And were small businesses already addressed by the federal government through the pandemic relief that's already been out there that isn't fully allocated yet?
I would say, Councilor Reich, small business programs have been addressed, yes, by the federal government and the state government. I believe in my discussion with some small business owners, some of them find those processes very difficult. They find them hard to maneuver. A lot of red tape comes with those. I think they scare off some people. So that's why our recommendation is to seek out, small businesses within the city that may have been left behind in those processes, and see if we can do something to provide some assistance, or again, bolster those businesses that will help the city recover from the economic downturn of the COVID.
Well, Angela, we'll, for the nonprofits and small business, would they have to indicate what the impact of COVID was on their business or their organization? Because it's like you just said about the small businesses or any business, you can go on the website for the PPP and a lot of businesses made out very well. So I'm just saying
Yeah, we're talking like businesses that got over $1 million and our allocations $1 million for the entire city.
So I think you're saying that should be a part of the criteria added in.
Well,
if you receive funds already.
Yeah, I mean, if you're flushed or if you can't really after the assistance you already have gotten, show that there was more of an impact. And
Right.
because if we could break this down, like I think Watertown and some of these other places, just they did up grants for like $10,000 and there was a whole bunch of them. And then if they met the criteria, that it was a quick process. And that got them up and going. I mean, even not just necessarily nonprofits and small businesses. You have, like city residents. You have our city's population that was impacted by the COVID. Some of them was due to the school system having their kids home. They couldn't go to work. They couldn't leave their kids. They couldn't get people to watch them. They didn't go to work. There's a lot of reasons why people were impacted, and I think everybody should be looked at in this process. And I also, the number 3, or actually would be 4, I lean towards maybe a little bit towards infrastructure, only because the Main Street Pump Station, we've got a grant, we've got some money sitting aside, and that's 1.2 million. That's a big one. And that one, especially if we're looking to get rid of 17 Main Street, that should be one of our quick focuses and get it done. We tabled the 5 million. We kept that off our ratepayers by not included in the wastewater treatment plant. That was wonderful. It worked out well. Funding did come through on the one. The state's going to take care of theirs. We're going to look at a significant impact as soon as we start paying that $110,000 a month back for that wastewater treatment plant for the next 30 years. So every little bit we can toss towards that Main Street pump station or any pump station, I think if you don't look in that direction, I don't think you're really doing your job.
Yeah, good point, Steve.
Good point.
So right now you just want to gauge somehow and not for profits and small business and see what's left over for infrastructure and other things?
I'd like to gauge, Counselor, what's out there. We have 4 requests right now that have come in. Angela can tell you who they're from. I just would like to make sure that everybody has been given an opportunity. We will certainly close the loop on the legality, making sure that you're following the proper process, but I really just want to ensure that the word has gotten out, and none of the 7 of you have to hear from your constituents that they didn't know.
Yeah, in addition to the legal ad, there should be like some sort of a public notice as well in the newspaper so that everybody is aware of it.
Counselor Scamperly volunteered at the last meeting to go business to business, I think. I'm pretty sure he said he was going to do that.
That's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, I think I like the legal notice idea better. Why don't we do that?
So does that sound like a consensus, or we?
Yeah, why don't we move forward with that? I'll second that and get that up and rolling ASAP.
Yeah, I agree. What's next, Steve?
We've got a request for permission to broadcast or amplify for a stereo system competition on September 18th, 2021 and September 19th, 2020 at the Lockwood Arena. I believe this is something you're all probably very well aware of. It's gone on for a number of years. The charter gives me the authority to tell them, yes, they can violate the noise ordinance for a period of time, but then it says council's approval. So I just, if anybody had anything contrary, Kathy can give you more details on the event if you all don't know about this. But my recommendation is we continue it. It certainly seems like something we've done for a number of years and hasn't caused any controversy. It's a well-attended event. I'll leave it to all you from there.
Go where? We need something for everyone, and it's been done before. Kathy filled us in a bit on it. So I'm for it.
What's the time?
It's in the card.
I apologize. I don't know the exact time. I do know that it's during daytime hours.
Your daytime hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah, we won't violate the hour curfew, just the decibel.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Everyone good?
So Sunday is the 19th, and there's a church service like right there, 2 blocks away. Can we start it after the church service? Church is from 9:30 to about 10:15.
Does anyone
We'll
know if it's
certainly
ever
pass
been,
Pardon?
does anyone know if it's ever been been to it?
I've been to it.
Has it been a problem for the, anyone ever hear?
I was in the afternoon, so I don't know. I wasn't at the church.
I don't know.
But I'm just
As long
saying
as
it,
council's, as long as
that would be
council's
the-
generally in favor, I'll take care of the details.
that would be the only thing I think I would object to is interrupting that service. But other than that, I'm all
Steve,
for it.
Could we maybe contact, the church, I think you're talking about Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, have them move up their service.
And what- Could we see if it ever interfered with them?
I was told it never interfered with that.
Never, okay.
We'll take care of it, council. This really was a formality for you to say you're
Yeah.
generally in favor. I'll make sure we.
So,
Other new business?
does anyone else have any new business?
Yes.
items?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there someone else?
Yeah, I do. One thing I'd like to do is get the RFP process started. Since that resolution was shot down, and do that ASAP. I'd like to see any RFPs that we've got already this week and start that process and get it rolling for the next council meeting. Another thing I'd like to talk about is police. I know Justin Polniak called in earlier. We're down to 17 working officers. You know, I've talked to some of these police officers. They're incredibly stressed to the max. I think we need to at least get them up to the 23 officers. And like he said, it still takes several months to go through training with our police and everything else. The sooner we can bring that up, the better. I commit myself to not voting for a budget that doesn't have at minimum 23 officers in it. And I hope he's all do the same. I'd like even more than that. I'd like 26 as he's calling for. I talked to these guys and they are just, it's unfathomable, the pressure and the stress that they're under. You know, you're a police officer before, but you had 28, 29 guys on. I mean,
It really, to be honest with you, for the most part, a lot of times we had two guys on a shift.
yeah.
So it really, that really was a, you know, I worked with one other guy and we had at the time probably 29. So plenty of times we worked with two people. We were really fortunate if we had a third. Just like the county runs the county with a lot of times with two guys on the road. That's it. So it's not like we're in a business that everybody else isn't in also. You know, so I'm just saying, it's like we could hire 50 and you still may not see that many people on a shift. Everybody seems to go away when there's enough people. I know I was.
I can fully understand understaffing as we deal with it continually here at the state level in the Department of Corrections. I tend to disagree just solely based off the fact of the high amount of crime, not just in the city of Ogdensburg or in the state of New York, but in this nation. And some of the laws that have passed recently that have emboldened criminal activity, I think we need to support our police officers even more. And you can't get around long-term injuries and workers' comp and those types of issues or career-ending injuries. Those happen, and we have to be able to adjust and have the staff to be able to adjust to that. And I tend to concur with Dan. Without any proper resources for our first responders, I'd be hard pressed to pass any budget, especially with any cuts coming forward. And Councilor Fisher is absolutely right. I'm sure there were many times that he did operate with two, and maybe certain nights those nights went unnoticed. But I'm sure there were plenty of nights that you had that required additional help, and that's what needs to be looked at in the long term. But
I think the big thing that needs to be looked at is getting rid of the catch and release. And if you didn't have that at this point, this fork in the road, we probably wouldn't have as much of the crimes we're having, because they're out faster than you can finish the paperwork. So And it doesn't matter how many times you multiple times you commit crimes, they're gonna let you back out again, right after the arraignment.
I don't think the officers are getting enough time off.
The other
What
thing
I'm
I'd like
hearing-
to see, because you brought up police, is back in March, I think it was, when we did the reform, we pushed and we had pushed it through, got everybody, asked people from the community to help, and we did that. And we submitted it, our reform, it was accepted. I thought it was really good. We did some changes to it just before it went. We talked about body cams. We were going to get attached to the sheriff's department because the same people could do it. Same with the car cameras. That's another level of whether you believe it to be protection or not. It protects both ways. But that's something that needs to be, we talked about it back in
I
March.
think they're coming in. I think they're gonna be in next week.
Yeah, but you know what? We're going, it's October.
It's hard, a lot of things you can't get, like we do it just.
Well, sheriff's department didn't have a problem getting theirs and they're up and running.
Well, the
Can we
police,
get a
the police,
report? Can we get a report on the number of calls coming in and the amount of overtime that's being paid right now and some sense of how these officers are working? I mean, I'm talking to them. They're literally working 12, 14 hours, getting 6 hours of sleep and right back at it. I mean, these guys are stressed and girls. I don't mean to play that, but it's they're very stressed out, and we need to staff so they can get some time off, some quality time.
as far as the police reform, that was more of an entity put together by a previous governor to increase and to enhance more police favoritism and interaction with the community. That police reform, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to provide certain amounts of safety to our community, and going forward. And I'm not arguing with Councilor Fisher in any way, shape, or form here. I'm just stating from my position what is vital, and we owe our employees a quality of life to an extent as well. And when you don't get that, you end up with a bad product. You end up with a tired product, a beat up product that may miss things along the way, that can create a havoc to civil to communities. And that's the genuine concern going forward. And the only remedy for that, regardless of the catch and release and the potential bail reforms coming down the pike in this next legislative session, but all that stuff and more still doesn't negate the fact that we still need to provide a service to our community. And that's just my position. So
If I could say a word, if we're gonna have any additional city employees, our city has to grow. Its tax base has to grow, and its revenue. And what we've done tonight with property tax foreclosure, I believe is going to be a help. When we get the legislation for sales tax, that's going to be additional revenue, and that's going to be a help. But ultimately, we need to grow the city in businesses and citizens. And I believe if we had 30 homes right now, 30 new homes, we'd have people buying them and living. We need to do our part, finding ways to make the city grow. And I think that's something we should consider, is looking at some developed lots. There's Rob Ashley owns a beautiful tract of land, and all the utilities, everything are put in there, of trying to spur development, bring new people in, and hopefully also with Diamond down the road, that will bring more citizens in, and more revenue and more sales tax. Sales tax is going to overtake property tax in the future. We need to have people move here, live here, enjoy the river and our community, and that will give us the revenue to have more city employees.
Could I
Yeah,
ask,
Like a $4 or $5 or $6 million.
We only
Fund
have
balance
it,
we're
we
talking
only
about?
have it because of the cuts. We
Yeah,
only
well,
have it because of the reduced staff.
I don't know what the price is for that, but I'll tell you what,
Well,
these guys are
the price,
overtaxed, and we're not giving them, the city, the service, to Mr. Powers' point, that we really do, and we're not backing our police. Our police need to know we're behind them, and they need help. They have to have time off, some time off, and that was my point. We aren't backing the police right now. The budget looks like it backs the police, but we're not even giving to the budget what we budgeted for, and that's a problem.
well, we still have the largest police force in the county, a larger police force than Messina, who's, they're in the new census, has a higher population. We do have a New
17
York State.
officers is not the highest police force in this county.
What is? What is?
I'm sure.
Messina has 12.
No, I
What is
disagree.
that?
And I know Potsdam has 3 different police forces in it.
Well, they have students too. But the fact is, I do not believe, it's usually budgeted $385,000 in overtime. And I do not believe we exceeded that. And that's in there every year. And also we have a state trooper barracks, and we all pay taxes to New York State a lot. And when we're short on manpower, we need to utilize them.
Mayor?
Maybe the
It's
state
really
needs to
difficult. It's really difficult to make a decision just based on emotions and everything without an understanding of, what the current situation is, which is the first time I've heard of it tonight. And, we need some information, the present situation. I don't know when the budget's coming out, but, is it coming out soon? You asked for it to be early. Is that the proper context to talk to about it, or do we put it on our next agenda since it's been raised as an issue and get the information we need so we can make?
I keep asking for the information over and over and over again. We're not getting it. We're not getting public updates. And we need to get public updates, and we need them.
I've asked for data on the police department. I would be interested in seeing a year's worth of data in that. I would hope we have it.
Pretty small staff in City Hall too.
Mayor?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? You guys have chased everybody out. There's an old saying, I think from Outlaw Josie Wales, and I'll clean up my language here. Don't pee down my back and tell me it's raining. You guys have fired everybody or chased them out of City Hall, and that's what's going on. That's the excuse I get. We don't have staff. Oh, people are getting out while the getting's good. Trust me. Some have.
No one has been fired.
Mayor?
Okay.
No one.
What about Matt Curtillo?
He was furloughed.
Furloughed. Oh.
Mayor, can I please, I have a question for the police chief, if I don't mind if I address the question to him. Chief, I was under the impression that we were already using the body cameras for the last several weeks. Is that true? 30 days into using them currently. And could you describe the additional paperwork that's required from the use of those body cameras and present it to the DA's office?
Counselor Powers, please.
Sorry, I was trying to get that out when you were talking about the body cameras, but I didn't get the opportunity previously.
Sure. We've had body cams in our works for about 30 days now. The way they work at the beginning of each shift, there's an account that each officer has to log into. They have to assign that particular body cam to them for that particular day. And then it captures videos throughout the day. In the last 30 days, it's captured over 1,000 videos. And at the end of their shift, each of those videos in a typical shift, they might have 30 or 40 videos for each officer. They have to go through those videos, label those videos of what they are, who was involved, and the complaint number, date, and time. And then each of those videos has to be forwarded to the district attorney's office. So it's adding about an hour's worth of work each day.
So are they coming off the road an hour early to complete that paperwork, or are they doing it at the end of their shift?
What's been requested from us is to keep it updated as the best they can throughout their shift with the labeling, but they cannot actually download the videos till the end of their shift because the unit itself, the body cam, goes on what's called a docking station. Then it uploads to the, basically a server, uploads all the videos, and they can't upload it to the DA's office until it's uploaded to the server itself. So again, it takes about an hour out of their shift to function these body cams, which these cams have been very beneficial to us already in the 30 days. It's, we have a very professional staff, but it's kept them professional. It's kept our officers honest, and it's kept the public honest. So I'm very happy that we have them.
Thank you for the update.
Couldn't they simply, like, you get the call, you issue the complaint number, state the complaint number on the camera, and while you have it on, and where you're getting out, so that it's already on the camera?
Yes, if there was a initial, like if you were responding to a complaint,
right,
you could do that. However, every public interaction per our policy is on camera. So not everything generates a complaint number, but that public interaction might turn into a complaint. As you know, as you're talking to someone, you might not have a complaint as soon as you get out of your car, but in the course of your conversation, they have basically disclosed the complaint to you.
No, but I'm just saying, just cut down on the work along the way for the ones that you do know.
Yes, they are. There's a mobile app that is also connected to their cellular telephones. So after the video is completed, they can immediately assign the number to that video, but they just can't do the upload process to the end of their shift.
Are they currently using their own private cell phones with that app, or are those on a phone that's provided to them by the city?
They're using their own cellular telephones.
Are they being reimbursed for that?
Only a selection of officers that are on call are reimbursed, but not the entire department.
So if we're requiring them as a city to use their personal devices, we should probably look into making sure that they are reimbursed for that at some point. We can't expect them to use a personal device.
I still believe they have the opportunity to be on the state contract bid for the cell phone provider. Like Verizon has a plan, or had a plan. I just got rid of it, and I've had it for 30 some years. That the state fee for having the phone was much less than if you went and got one.
All first responders are entitled to a 20% discount on their cell phone bills.
You just have to get
volunteer firefighters, EMTs included.
So you get, there's a give and take there, because you just show your police ID that's got the chief's name on it, and with your ID and I believe your driver's license, and you send it in, and it's accepted, and your bill is decreased considerably. So there's some hidden bennies there. So it's not like we're just saying use all your own stuff.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that if we're requiring the use of something, we should not necessarily provide an entire phone, but there should be something in there that states they are using their own personal device, because I think when you use a personal device for business and business for a personal device, I think it blurs a line. That's just my personal opinion. So.
I will have the city manager an updated report. I heard your requests for a snapshot of a year's worth of time. I'll provide it to Mr. Jelly, and he can forward it to you as you requested.
Thank you.
Can we come in and see some of those?
I can give you a demonstration on how they work, and I can show you some. None of it's tied to a pending case, but, but some just general public interaction videos. Absolutely. I encourage you to come down anytime.
Yeah, and what about dash cams?
We do not have dash cams.
I think you should have dash cams.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities. The company that we utilize, Axon, does offer them, but again, it's just an increased price to our rental agreement, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Sheriff's Department have?
No, they do not. The only dash cam, I'm only aware of one dash cam in the county, and it belongs to the village of Messina.
Sometimes it just seems like obviously if there's only two guys working on it, it's a Saturday night, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and the car's out there. For some reason, the body cam doesn't work or whatever, and they're in front of the car and the dash cam's going off. It seems like you're giving up some valuable footage that could have either potentially led to who was responsible for any type of action, instead of just letting those moments go. You got the car there. We've already got that expense, and we've saved on the leases. I think they should be dash cams.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can look into for sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
just a couple points of fact for council. First of all, I will just take the comments from the police union president as they were intended. He and I have had discussions about this issue. He's mischaracterizing the issue in a significant way. And I only ask council, please, I give you data when you ask for it. I will give it to you, but please do not fall into the emotional pleas of union presidents who are garnering public attention. This is the same union president that called for 4 of your resignations at one point. The facts of the matter are simply this: you budgeted for 23 positions. I'm not withholding anything. The police chief was not able to fill the one position that we had vacant immediately following the budget year. He just wasn't able to get someone hired in time to go to the academy. So we ended up with a 23rd position that, unless we found a qualified officer, we weren't going to be able to fill. I didn't stop him from doing that. Only recently, after discussion with all of you about the potential impacts from the loss of sales tax. It is all well and good that some community members and some members of council are already planning for how we're going to cover that shortfall with the fund balance, but I would tell you, I don't see that as a reliable or potential course of action at this point that any of us should be spending, especially when we may be taking a hit in revenue. So the facts of the police staffing are just simply this: we have had a vacancy since the first of the year. Chief Westcott certainly could have filled that and didn't. We have 2 officers injured. That puts us up to 3. An officer recently left for the state police, an officer recently left for the village of Canton, and our police chief retired. So there are the 7 positions, or the 6 positions that make up the 23, none of which has anything to do with the city manager not spending the allotted budget. So those are the facts. I will send you your statistics. Budget season starts soon. The department heads are working on it now. I don't know that it is pertinent, or quite frankly, it's within the realm of time that the staff has while they're working on now to take this budget and do it now when we're going to be doing it as it relates to the year 2022. Because while again, I think that it is it's noble that we are all talking about public safety, I think that it's ridiculous to think that any of us aren't thinking about public safety. But we all have to remember, we have a fund balance now because we have controlled spending. We have also sent money back to the taxpayers that wasn't only necessary to return money to the taxpayers, it was to reduce our constitutional tax limit to give a future city council the flexibility to raise taxes in the event of crisis or needs in the city. So it is perfectly well and good to preach the gospel of public safety and talk about crime statistics, but all of us need to remember our other responsibility is to balance the city budget, and we'll get an opportunity to do that soon. And I hope that all of you have as many good ideas about how to balance the budget with a potential decreasing revenue source as we do how to spend the money that we've worked so hard to put ourselves in good position with.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, it would be a terrible thing to hire someone and then during the budget process have to let someone go. So I think it's good that we use this time, bring the budget forward and see where we are. We are under threat of losing sales tax, which I still don't understand when sales tax grow and why the county is insistent on this fight. But is there anything else for new business? Is there anything for discussion?
I actually saw the skate park locations on items for discussion. I actually had a couple ideas I wanted to bring forward. I know that it's part of the DRI, but upon talking with people and thinking about how we can utilize what we have now instead of waiting for a DRI, what is the possibility of possibly being able to make 2 skate parks, one on Hamilton Street Park and one over on New York Ave Park? And then if our DRI is successful, turning those into like an open court basketball area for people so we can utilize that and have like a repurposed focus if this DRI is successful. So an idea that I came up with was if we could, you can pour the concrete, put the necessary, I'm not quite sure, equipment, I guess would be a good name for it. Put different equipment at each park. So that way, if people want to utilize a certain amount of equipment here, or a certain amount of equipment at New York Ave Park, it would divide it. It would put equipment on both sides of town, giving an equitable choice. Kids could come across. It would also divide the amount of kids up that are congregating at one time. And they're both in very high traffic areas. So then if this DRI is successful, which I truly hope it is, maybe we can utilize some of that equipment, put it into a new skate park, and then repurpose those two places, whether it's a, cement pad or however it's formed, whatever the best type of asphalt or whatever you use is. And then we could turn that into, we don't have any like nice usable basketball courts in town. You could utilize that surface, put some paint down. We could have a couple nice basketball hoops for pickup. The only pickup I know is there's one at New York Ave Park, and that's in terrible condition. And we've got the Boys and Girls Club. So it might offer some other things for the youth in our community to do towards pickup games, or even utilize for city rec and, different camps and things like that. Just trying to repurpose and come up with a solution now.
I believe the city manager is planning on, he's looking into restoring the basketball courts up on New York Avenue and at Father Martin's Field to be recoated and striped. There was 2 coats of seal were put on to smooth the asphalt done at the
No, I'm just trying to think of something, like we were looking for locations, and I'm told I don't bring a lot of solutions. So my solution is how can we get these kids, young adults, grown adults, something obtainable they can get their skateboards, scooters, whatever it is on now. So I'm just thinking, I feel as if something like that could be obtainable for this spring. We're looking at a budgeting process here. So I'm saying maybe we're saving with the way we're working, the way we're working here, maybe we can put some of that money back into the community in that way, shape, or form for our youth.
I asked some of the people that originally started the skateboard park, and so they've been working. So it was approximately $3,000 for the coating, and the contractor said he would come back in the spring. He's going to do a 3rd coat for free to even make it better. Now there's the repairs on the existing court. An estimate came in for $6,800, putting it back with the materials that were installed originally. I have $3,000 in private funding for it. So if we wanted to do something, we could put $4,000. We could approve $4,000, and that would fully repair the existing park. And that we also have got a price on a new park, like what's there, and that new park is $135,000.
Those are good ideas, Nicole, and maybe Ms. Cole, is that right?
Yep.
Maybe she will discuss that and your ideas with the city manager and be part of it.
Because I just think that coming up with something now is better than,
Yeah.
I think the DRI is great, and I would love to see the huge, whatever those things are that they drop into and all that stuff. My kids watch it on TV, they love it. I'm just saying something obtainable now could be more beneficial than just putting all of our eggs in one basket. And plus it also shows that we are willing to invest in the youth in our community, not just wait for money to come to us. We're willing to show our youth that we're investing.
We're doing that then.
Would council be agreeable to fund $4,000 to finish, to repair the existing park right now? Can we bring that up? It's $7,000, $6,800. I have $3,000.
Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I would think that would be fine. And also, we keep talking about this, like the existing part that's there right now that I've gone over a few times. It doesn't look bad. And if all that equipment that's got the few little cracks in it was replaced with the original stuff, what's to complain about that?
I say, let's
fence it too. Put a fence around it.
I'd like to definitely see it fixed.
Because that's all I'm saying is we were just looking at different areas, and I was just thinking about, we have 2 distinct sides of town.
But that's right in the middle, right where it is.
I guess I was just thinking of locations more so Boys and Girls Club.
I got it from, well, a person that's been, like I say, was very involved in it. He's got the price and, I got it.
Can you
to-
share it with us?
Yeah,
Good.
I'll,
I mean, half the problem is
Well-
we don't know what's going on.
Well, he took private donations from people when
Yeah,
it, when
that's
it first started and people came
$3,000
out.
covered the coating. I have another $3,000 for the repairs. But the only thing is, the quote, I just wanted more detail, so I don't really have a final one. I got the price, but I just want a little more detail to make sure that it is all gonna be completed. I believe this contractor will do it complete, but I just like a little more detail from them. So
I think
Can
for
we-
$4,000, if that puts it back so it's, the equipment is 100% safe and we don't have anybody getting scratched up on it or hurt, no matter where that equipment sits, it still would need to be fixed, because why would you throw it out? And if you want to look at a skateboard park, go to Watertown. There's this, I think it's wooden. It's right next to the fairgrounds. I went by it a few times and just pulled in. Ours is like,
So there's a lot of needs for a skate park.
yeah, I'm not saying there's not, but I'm just saying we have it
I
right
know.
here.
We
And it's
need,
not,
we need water, we need a bathroom, we need things like that.
well, we got Lockwood Arena right there. What do those people use?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like-
So it needs to be opened, and
So,
I
yeah.
think to use the bathrooms, I think, you know, when it gets dirty, and I've gone down there a few times and there's milkshakes all over and stuff, probably just like a guy goes around, and checks the parks in the morning, he's got to check the skate park.
I think fencing.
And they might already be doing it. I don't.
Put the fence back up. Put another fence up, just like it was down at tennis courts. And then
I
that
mean,
way
it's a
you can
temporary
secure it.
park. We know that. So
Right. Well,
So
even a temporary fence.
what do you think about putting $4,000 of city money, which is only 4 out of 10 invested in
To
it?
fix up the temporary skate
Yes.
park.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
well, the
temporary
equipment wouldn't be temporary. You could still use that equipment, whether or not you split it into two different areas or you don't. But there's that equipment is not so far gone.
The reason that I'm saying temporary isn't because of that. It's because I envision a nice concrete, good skate park for the community.
I don't know what the price for something like that
It's
is.
gonna be a
And-
few $100,000.
300,000.
Well, $300,000.
Right.
So that's
And-
Right. And
and-
so
and-
we applied for a DRI. And until then, we should be planning a fundraiser of some sort to do that. Partially city money and partially a
Christ,
fundraiser.
he's just knocked down all of it
But
before.
for
the
now,
bid.
I would absolutely agree to fixing up this equipment.
I mean,
$4,000, that's all we need.
Yeah, who wouldn't? I mean, of course I do.
So I think we're bringing it up from the floor. We need 5 votes.
Just on the record, I would like to see one, like, if this DRI doesn't move forward or we're not awarded it, I would like to see a real, more permanent. I'm willing to put the money into it now, but I would like to see something more permanent done, even if the DRI is not successful.
And I
guess
think we
is
should
my point.
continue planning on
I just,
Right.
I
This
just,
is a
We
nice
still got to
temporary
deal with
fix.
today. And
Right,
today,
no, that's what I'm saying. I want to have,
that. That's why we're agreeing to the $4,000.
right, our complaint out there is that it's in bad shape and people can get hurt. So if we take that out of the equation, we have a skate park.
yes.
So there is a
Just
place
like-
to go
just
until
like
we
we've
find
had
out
for
about the
years.
DRI.
It's the same as what we've had for years. And it's really not very far distance from where.
no, I'm just saying, every time you build something, you just try to build it back better. So that's just all I'm saying, is every time you put money into something, you're always trying to improve or build it back better. So that's all I'm saying is,
This will be better because it was deteriorating.
yeah, I would,
It was deteriorating. So we'll be better there. But we got to remember, if we want more police and more fire, you know, and you want 135,000, well, the price was 135,000 for one like we have. It's hard to come up with everything. We just got to remember that. So could we present
Mayor, we don't-
a Yes.
Mayor, I don't, we don't need a resolution to do repairs to the skate park. There's plenty of budget. Yeah, we don't need that. I've counseled intent as always. And
We don't want.
that?
I agree to the $4,000.
Okay.
You've all been adequately voiced. If we could, I would like us to get though to the topic, because we're sort of doing exactly what I hope we wouldn't do tonight. And I need to hold you all to this. Staff has done some initial work. We provided you some information. There's got to be some discussion about the new skate park. I never believed and don't believe today that where the temporary skate park is sitting is the permanent skate park location. If it is, great, but that was never our intent. We've got to
Thank
get to
you very much.
discussing, we got to get discussing where the new is going so that we can start planning and providing numbers. I appreciate the numbers being thrown out tonight on the skate park, but I wouldn't guess that anybody has any real good idea until we pick a location and we establish a design and things like that, that we throw around cost. I think that would be, that's premature. So picking a location really would go a long way to, or beginning the process, sorry, to pick a location would go a long way. So we've given you a map tonight. Andrea's team did a lot of work. They've established this by districts. She's certainly available to ask some initial questions. This is not intended to be a decision meeting. This is intended to be, here's what we've got for you so far. How would you like us to go about providing you the level of detail and the process to get towards making a decision of where the future skate park should go?
So I like option 3 best. With that being said, downtown, obviously it looks like there's 2 of them there. But I'd also like to hear from the community on this. I don't think there's, with these choices, I think option 3, personally, I'm in more favor of.
No, I definitely agree. I like the location of 3 just because it's also in a could potentially be high traffic area. It's easily to be maintained. The reason that I had mentioned the 2 existing parks earlier was just also in regards to the location. They're highly trafficked areas, not only with our police force, but just general public. And a lot of times one of the biggest deterrents is just people.
Yeah,
So
I think it's not a bad idea.
I like where the cheese plant is part of our regional recreation center. I would like it, and I think that would be great because a lot of people will be there.
One thing I would like to see included, I like the idea of the skate park wherever we put it. I would like to see wherever we put the skate park, I would like to see some type of playground equipment located maybe in the area of some type of, just because as a parent you may have one kid that's eligible to play on the equipment, but if you're a parent, 9 times out of 10, or you're bringing another child with you, you need something to keep that other child entertained, which is the nice about the location of where it was before, because you had the Kids Kingdom right there in the skate park. So I'm thinking, is there any way we could possibly integrate some type of small playground within the area? Obviously, so we'd be able to lock it at night and things like that, but just some type of area that could be utilized.
Well, option
in there.
3 would automatically give you that because of the playground. But that's a great
But
thought.
that's
Great
my
thought.
point as coming from a parent with small children is I love to bring my kids places, and I know a lot of other parents are in the same situation, but I have a large age group in between my kids. My oldest is 11, the youngest is 2. I can't bring them to do the same thing. So I have to try to find things within reason to accommodate both of them. So just saying, like, I'm not asking or saying it has to be a giant play structure, but something within the area that could be utilized.
Could we take a chunk of the mall parking lot across from where the pool is now, since we're gonna tear down 212 anyway, and then replace the parking with that, because that's where the main street is, and then you've got the pool, you're gonna have the revitalization of the green belt, you're gonna have the state-of-the-art park that's in this proposal that we got the last time or a couple times back, and one size fits all. And if you're hot skateboarding, you go across just like a walkway, just like there is on the other side going to the old Lake Street Bridge, and you could go to the pool for a swim. If you got to go to the Dubisky Center for food, it's there.
Or restrooms.
The restrooms are there. You can go over to the brand new park once it's done. I think it's a $700,000 park. And if kids can't find something to do in that one, I God help you. So it's not on our sheet tonight, but it just seems like all we do with that parking lot
It is.
is plow
It
it.
is on your sheet. It is on the map that's directly on the screen, and the one that I printed out for you this evening, it's just included in the Greenbelt Park options. It's a great suggestion. It's noted as being an opportunity that would allow the council to discuss alienation with New York State. So we could, if
Trade it.
the council was interested in looking at dedicating a portion of the park, but not, it would be something like 212 Ford Street. You would have to find a new area, but looking at the downtown mall parking lot and area is a great suggestion, and it's definitely one that staff thinks is worth considering.
The rec area, just consider, is gonna have all those facilities too.
And it's very close to 30 Main Street. But, so the map that's in front of you all tonight, and again, for the benefit of the public listening, it is included as a handout, so you can download it and look at it if the map on this screen is too small for you. Highlights the 3 areas as general areas that were called out previously. The Greenbelt Park area is what was option 3. Center City is what was labeled as option 1, and the Marina District was option 2. These are 3 general areas of the city. All 3 areas have at least 2 or more city-owned parcels. Some of them are park spaces, some of them are surplus properties. Some of them are mall parking lots or even 212 4th Street. So all of these 3 locations have clusters of city-owned property. So we are not suggesting taking additional property off the tax map to do this. Obviously, if we looked at 212 Ford Street, that would remain off of the tax roll, but it wouldn't become available for resale or future development. But it would open up the option for alienation with New York State. If we looked at creating and designating new parkland, we might be able to dispose of some restrictions on existing parkland that has. So there's a lot of options. Mackenzie Cole is here this evening, and she may have some more detailed comments on feedback that she's received or on how she might recommend getting additional comments. But one of the suggestions that Mackenzie had is with some targeted direction from council, maybe one of these areas is off the table. Maybe we want to focus on the Greenbelt Park and Marina District and not look at Center City. Maybe we only want to look at the Greenbelt Park area. If council had that level of direction, we could certainly advise you on some recommendations on how to get public comment. We might, among the recommendations, is possibly doing a Survey Monkey. We use that to collect information from users of the summer camp with a lot of success. So it's been a tool that we have used in the past, and we think we could use again to help get some community feedback with direction from city council.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of the Greenbelt Park, and then also we're going to be looking forward to the future to hosting major fishing tournaments, things like that. The number one thing that I know Major League Fishing wanted to know is what is available in our community within a close proximity of where they're going to be fishing. So if we can take everything awesome that we have to offer and put it in one blanket area, like Major League Fishing wanted a festival, and we had to be able to entertain the community and bring them to a specific area. So that keeping everything located within the Greenbelt also makes Ogdensburg more marketable in the fact that within, you know what I mean, walking distance of, them putting the boats in, your children are entertained, there's this, that, and this. We've got a restaurant in the Dubisky now. Like, it can just show a cohesive unit, and I think that makes Ogdensburg very marketable as we look towards being a cohesive unit in our facilities. So just my point of view.
Sounds good.
I'm all for the rec center, in that area.
I'd scrap number 2.
I mean, the problem with the rec center is the Marina District is designated restaurants, nightclubs, things like that. That's the only issue I really have down there.
I was thinking of that in the back.
I hear that a lot, Dan, but the problem I have with it is when they made the decision to build the Lockwood Arena and the kids that go there skating and the stuff and the open skating, you got a bar across the street, you had a bar up the street, you had a bar down towards Lake, you had 3 down there. Nobody seemed to care over those whole 20 years. And it wasn't an
I
issue.
agree, but the Lockwood's in a terrible spot.
I'm just,
I agree with you.
quoting
now
our
all those bars are
LWRP.
gone.
That was the community's
Well, no, but I'm just saying, in reality, it happens every day. There's people, we're bringing our kids there, they're skating, they're going to free skating and nobody seems to care, you know, but the skateboard park's behind it and the tiki bar's there and it's like the world's coming to an end.
I'm not saying that at all, but, no, I mean, I just supported a DRI that puts it there. So I'm just saying, when I'm looking at these three options, I like the green belt best.
I don't know if you're familiar with the old, it was originally a house home that went on the back.
Yeah.
On that block. There's even old property over that could be available, used to be St. Lawrence Gas or National Grid, that is a possibility too. So there's just a lot of property down there, and I thought we really need to have everything incorporated. Like, so you have an outdoor ice rink, skating, outdoor skating, and then street hockey in the summer, and then so it would be. I mean, just everybody would be there in that one area and just enjoying, and then you see other people.
Yeah, I think Nicole has a great point about having a playground near it for the people that have multiple ages children.
I don't think it's a playground on Proctor Avenue. Is there a playground on Proctor Avenue neighborhood?
Not that I'm aware of.
It doesn't sound like there's a lot of traction for this Center City option 1 location. Is that was
Correct.
the geographic center of the city, but should we take that one off the table?
Correct.
Well, for the record, I haven't weighed in yet, but I would go for the Center City aspect of it as well. And to compare with Dan real quick, and as we go forward, I think it's important to include the original skateboard park in this discussion down the road. Once a viable option is determined, but going forward as to the needs of what they may need for such a skateboard park, I think it would be important to hear from the stakeholders involved.
Yeah, I think you misinterpreted. I was supporting the downtown and Greenbelt area, which we would think is center because that's where the parking area is. Maybe to our conversation. So it's map number 3.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's option 3. I do not have the handout in front of me. I'm looking at option 3, and that's the one I'm thinking of, not Center City. I apologize. It's the downtown Greenbelt option 3, and Andrea kind of gave a description of the map. Apparently, you guys have a handout. I don't have that one, but I have the other 3, and it is option 3 that I support.
So no one is in favor of the Center City options, it sounds like, which is fine, but then that would be narrowing down. No, it's the geographic center of the city. It's around the police station and Kennedy School and Plover Hill. We can put all of these locations out and we can.
That'd be great. I'd like a lot more information. Like, what are the pros and cons of each? Is there a bathroom nearby? Are there utilities nearby? How much does it cost to build this thing? What grant source are we looking at? Does it have lights? All these types of things.
Sure. So we did lay out some of those in the initial maps that were presented, including proximity to utilities and bathrooms specifically. So we did note some sites, specifically the Center City sites, don't have those amenities. But that's fine. There aren't, I mean, it's not like there's a ton of properties. We can easily get comment on all of these. If that's the direction from council and report back. I guess the only other question I have for clarification is if everybody is in support of using the Survey Monkey as a tool. Mackenzie can actually speak to that if you'd like, because she did develop a survey.
I did it for both of my kids for sports camps. It was easy to reply. It was quick. It didn't take much time out of the day.
Then cost would be a big factor also in the final decision. Like some sites would be raw, would be most expensive. Some already have pavement. Like where it is now, might be an option that doesn't really cost anything. So
If you go to the mall, will we be able to get the DRI funds like we would at the regional rec center?
So if it was in the Greenbelt location or the Marina District, Either of those would be included in the downtown boundary. The Center City location would not. So if it was near the geographic location, so it's about Park Street, and J, I think, is the actual geographic center of the city, that is outside of the DRI boundary, so it would not qualify for funding, if we were awarded. So that is one disadvantage, but not to take it off the table, but it is one of the disadvantages of the Center City. It is close to school, it's close to housing. There's a housing development right in that same area, so presumably a higher population or concentration of kids that may be a primary user. So there's other pros to that location, but that would be one con for sure.
There was a skate park in that location.
And just like you just said, the DRI there's a bit your if that came with that.
Yep.
Okay. Well, right now we know we're getting $8 million. We got $8 million going to go into the green belt.
Yes.
And that project is a go. It's going to happen. Now, it seems kind of senseless, given, even if it's awarded in November, or that you might get something or you don't get anything, at least we know that's going to be done down there. There's going to be a new park. There's going to be all those things that go down in that area, and taking a chunk of that mall parking lot and swapping it with the states, is, I think, would probably be the best way to go. Fence it in, put the walkway across. You got your bathrooms, you have the pool, you're already there. The work is done. And we want to go, like he just said, just go start scratching the ground somewhere where nothing's there at all. It makes no sense.
There's a bit of work to do there. You have the elevations, everything has to be, there's some regrading, and maybe that grading could be incorporated into it, I don't know. But then you do have children going across, that arterial.
Go to the Lake Street Bridge. It's at the top of the bridge, and there's a pedestrian walkway.
Yep, you could
Everybody drives by it every day.
You could probably almost install another pedestrian walkway if you had. I'm just saying.
No, but I'm just saying it's been that way for years.
Right.
And it works, and I have not heard of any issues. I go down through there, somebody's standing there, I stop, let them go. That's what you're supposed to do. And you're coming up over the hump. So
Yeah, I don't
that's
object to
flat.
that idea.
And of course so wherever it goes, it's going to be contingent on us getting this grant, because it's $300,000. I don't see us having $300,000 without that.
Right.
So wherever it goes, it's going to be contingent on that. It's just a lot of money. Yeah. Moving on.
So it's just, sorry, I'm in favor of moving on. Just want to make sure that I'm clear with my direction. So are we only looking at the 2 downtown locations? Is that?
Yes.
I think it's good to eliminate that one.
Yep.
Especially if it's not eligible for funding.
So we will put together a survey using SurveyMonkey. We will just kind of tweak the survey that Mackenzie had originally put together. We'll focus on this sort of downtown confluence of the 2 rivers, and we'll ask for some public feedback, and we'll present that to you. I'll discuss with the city manager whether he wants to do that at the next meeting in September, or if we want to push it out till the first meeting in October, and we'll see what works best for his schedule.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't even know where we are now.
We're in discussion. Yes.
Yeah, skate park. So citizens.
Okay.
Citizen participation.
Oh. Okay. Are we in citizens? Are we all done with discussion? Everything? Okay. And this brings us to citizen participation. This time, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature.
The first individual is registered as Penny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. Appears your line is open.
Okay, I'd like to address the statement from Mr. Jelly in regards to the city beach. I'm glad you realized that expediting the process was the major concern, major safety concern of the city, not the concern that the people did not want a beach. We've all wanted a beach. It was just the safety concern, and expediting all those procedures was not a good way to approach it. So we did want a beach, as it was not implied that we did want it. I mean, it was implied that we didn't want it at times, and that was never the truth. So I'm glad we're looking into it. I'm glad we're taking a long range approach on it. And may I suggest that maybe a committee could be formed in regards to establishing a city beach, maybe getting a little more outside the box ideas. There's probably people in this town that have some good ideas. And instead of laying it all on one or two or three people trying to come up with things, maybe if the citizens knew what some of the guidelines were, or some of the stipulations were that we couldn't go outside of, that would help. And then we can give you some ideas of where we're coming from. So I think it's kind of a bitty community involvement thing, as has been spoken about the skateboard park just now, community involvement. It's not, I know the council's looking at it for all of us, but maybe some of the people getting some input into it on committees would be nice, and not hand-picked committees of people that are actually interested in it. I would think that would be a viable solution to a lot of the problems that we have going on here. I've even submitted a program in this DRI thing. It's a little outside the box, but it was ideas. And if we're going to get millions, if we get millions, it certainly would make a Ogdensburg recreational draw to a lot of things. I don't know if it'll ever be looked at, if it went in the trash can. I have no idea. And I'm sure there's other people out there that have good ideas. But maybe if we heard some of these ideas instead of just having them filed away. I don't know where all these ideas are coming from. I understand there's a lot of work going into it, but we are the community. We are the ones this involves also. And I'd like to know where some of the ideas came from. I mean, I put in there a way to save the pool, to include Mr. Skelly's recreation program that he wanted, that big building he wanted. Enclosing the pool, it was built that way to begin with, in case no one knew. There was a heater in it at one point to be heated. It was going to be enclosed, but that got scrapped somewhere along the line. But I mean, a lot of things that people don't ask and don't know, and perhaps people have information that would be helpful to all of you. And I just think that the community needs to be more involved in what's going on and where these things are going. And I know you put things out there. I mean, I gave you my 2 cents. I even drew it. That was pretty good. But whatever the case may be, lots of ideas. Don't know what the regulations are, some of them. I hope the DOH report is available to all of us, not just the council. And in regards to the police staffing, you say that one went to the state troopers, one went to Canton. I don't blame them. And who would want to fill these positions here? It's a very uncomfortable environment at this time, and I feel really bad for the safety of this town between the fire department being cut down and the police department. There's other ways they could have saved money. I don't care. I don't care what the books say right now. I'm saying our safety and this community safety comes first. And I don't blame people for not wanting to come to the police department, not being able to find somebody to go to the police department. Why would you want to? You sneeze the wrong way, you get fired. So it's just made it totally uncomfortable. But anyhow, thank you. And you have all my ideas. And I hope the community is more involved in all these decisions that are going on, especially if there's millions of dollars involved. Thank you. Have a good night.
Just to say, no one has been fired. So Kathy, anyone next?
The next individual is registered as Scott McRoberts, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Yes, first I'd like to ask the mayor, council, whomever, has anybody reached out to the state, the New York State Troopers, to see if they will be able to backfill the police department if we cut them? I've heard that brought up, but really, just because you say it, does that mean it's going to happen? I mean, we've had a lot of comments to the county about them doing this, that, and everything else. It doesn't appear they're on board with it. So I'd be curious to know where we stand on that. Next, I'd like to ask the council if at any point in time you'll give a public reprimand to city officials who make derogatory comments to not only city employees, but citizens as well, or is that only if you're in the minority? First, the council uses an inflammatory word on social media when describing a department head. Next, an appointed city official calls the taxpaying citizen a moron. Perhaps some thicker skin is needed by some at the head of the table. Next, I would like to address the comments by Greg McNamara. The only opportunity the citizens, disruptors, have had to rebuke the current majority of council was on the school library referendum. Despite many public statements against the referendum by the majority, and even one of them outside of the dome campaigning against it, the referendum passed in a landslide. Lastly, how much will the tax base increase if people who invest/build houses in the city decide to grieve their assessments and sue the city? Will we hire an attorney full-time to combat the grievances from the upcoming windfall of investments due to the significant tax cuts? I'd just like to hear that response to that. Nothing? Only if you feel the need to speak, Mayor? That's what I thought.
Selective.
That's what I thought.
Mr. Powers, would you care to answer any questions? You may.
I'm sorry, what?
Councilor Powers, you made a statement there. Would you want to, if you want to answer any questions, Councilor Powers, you're welcome to. Kathy, who's next?
The next individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual. Now it appears your line is open.
Yes, thank you. Mike Tooley again. First, I just want to thank city staff and especially Andrea for their efforts in developing the DRI application. I agree with council. These are certainly very exciting ideas, and I hope your efforts are rewarded. Next, and maybe this could be addressed at the public hearing in 2 weeks because it's not clear to me, but in the actions under consideration going forward next year, will the city only be collecting city property tax and we pay county property tax directly to the county, or will the current system still remain? Thank you.
Who's next?
I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay, we do not have a need for executive session tonight. So at this time, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourn.